Welcome. Thank you for joining us at the Z-Files, where we will now visit cities around the world in which something is quietly taking root. Balconies bloom with lettuce, rooftops hum with bees, and warehouses glow with rows of greens growing without soil. Let's check how urban farming is reshaping how we think about food, space, and the places we call home. Part 1. The city as a garden. For most of human history, farming meant leaving the city behind. Fields stretched beyond the walls, orchards filled the countryside, and the distance between soil and table was measured in miles. Cities were places of commerce and industry, not cultivation. But that distance has been shrinking. Over the past few decades, urban farming has moved from the margins to the mainstream, transforming rooftops, abandoned lots, and even basements into productive growing spaces. The practice is not entirely new. Victory gardens flourished in cities during wartime. Backyard chickens were common before industrial agriculture centralized food production. What has changed is the scale, the technology, and the urgency. Today, more than half the global population lives in cities, a figure expected to reach nearly 70% by the middle of this century. As urban populations swell, the question of how to feed them becomes pressing. Long supply chains are vulnerable to disruption. Transportation adds cost and carbon. Fresh produce can travel 1,000 miles before reaching a grocery shelf, losing nutrients along the way. Urban farming offers an alternative, bringing food production closer to the people who consume it. The term itself is broad. Urban farming includes everything from a single tomato plant on a windowsill to a multi-story greenhouse producing tons of greens each week. It encompasses community gardens where neighbors share plots, commercial vertical farms stacked high with hydroponic systems, rooftop apiaries where bees gather nectar from city blooms, and balconies lined with containers of herbs and peppers. It includes edible landscaping where fruit trees replace ornamental shrubs in public parks, aquaponic systems where fish and plants sustain each other, and microgreens grown in closets under LED lights. What unites these practices is location. Urban farming happens in cities, in spaces not traditionally considered agricultural. The reasons people turn to urban farming are varied. Some seek fresh, nutritious food in neighborhoods underserved by grocery stores. Food deserts, areas where affordable and healthy food is hard to find, affect millions of city dwellers. Growing food locally can address that gap. Others are motivated by environmental concerns. Urban farms can reduce the carbon footprint of the food system by cutting transportation and using resources more efficiently. Water use in controlled environments like greenhouses or hydroponic setups can be drastically lower than conventional farming. Some growers are drawn by economic opportunity. Small-scale urban farms can generate income, especially when selling specialty crops like microgreens, edible flowers, or heritage vegetables to restaurants and farmers' markets. And for many, the act of growing food is simply satisfying, a way to reconnect with natural cycles in the midst of concrete and glass. Urban farming also responds to a broader rethinking of what cities can be. Traditionally, zoning laws separated residential, commercial, and agricultural uses. Farming belonged in the country. But cities are living systems, and the strict boundaries of the past are softening. Planners and policymakers increasingly recognize that integrating food production into urban landscapes can yield multiple benefits. Green roofs planted with vegetables help manage stormwater, reduce heat island effects, and improve air quality. Community gardens strengthen social ties and provide educational opportunities. Vertical farms can operate year-round, unaffected by weather or season. The city as a garden is not a nostalgic fantasy but a pragmatic response to contemporary challenges. Different cities and countries have approached urban farming in different ways, shaped by climate, culture, land values, and policy priorities. In places where land is scarce and expensive, such as Singapore or Tokyo, the focus is often on high-tech vertical farming and maximizing production per square foot. Singapore, for instance, has set ambitious goals to produce a significant portion of its own food by the end of this decade, investing heavily in vertical farms that use hydroponics and controlled environments. The city-state has limited arable land and imports most of its food, making local production a matter of food security. In contrast, cities with more available space, such as Detroit or Cleveland in the United States, have seen urban farming take root in vacant lots and abandoned properties. These cities faced industrial decline and population loss, leaving behind stretches of empty land. Community groups and entrepreneurs have transformed these spaces into gardens and small farms, often with support from municipal programs that provide access to land, grants, and technical assistance. In Europe, urban farming is often tied to sustainability initiatives and green infrastructure. Cities like Berlin and Paris have encouraged rooftop gardens and edible landscaping as part of climate action plans. Paris, for example, has a goal to cover a large portion of its rooftops and walls with vegetation by the mid-2020s, much of it edible. The city provides financial incentives and simplified permitting for green roof projects. In the Netherlands, where water management and innovative agriculture have long been priorities, urban farming experiments blend high technology with ecological design. Amsterdam has seen floating farms and aquaponic systems integrated into its canals and waterfronts. The differences are not just geographic but also economic and cultural. In wealthy cities, urban farming often focuses on premium products and sustainability branding. Rooftop farms supply high-end restaurants with fresh herbs and salads. In lower-income areas, urban farming may be more about food access and community resilience. The crops grown, the methods used, and the support available all vary. Understanding urban farming means recognizing this diversity, seeing it not as a single practice but as a constellation of approaches adapted to local conditions. As we move forward, we will explore the many forms urban farming takes, the technologies that enable it, the policies that shape it, and the people who tend these city gardens. Each part of this story reveals another layer, another quiet transformation happening in the spaces between buildings. Let us begin by looking up to the rooftops and vertical spaces where urban farming reaches toward the sky. Part 2: Rooftops, Balconies, and Vertical Spaces. When you think of a farm, you might picture rows stretching across flat earth, open to the sun and sky. But in cities, horizontal space is a luxury. Land is expensive, often already claimed by buildings, roads, and infrastructure. So urban farmers have learned to grow upward and outward, using the vertical dimension that cities provide in abundance. Rooftops, once empty expanses of tar and gravel, become gardens. Balconies transform into small productive plots. Walls sprout greenery. Vertical farming, in its many forms, is one of the defining features of urban agriculture. Rooftop farming has gained traction in cities worldwide. The concept is straightforward. Most buildings have roofs, and many of those roofs receive ample sunlight. By adding growing beds, containers, or even full soil layers, these spaces can support vegetables, herbs, and flowers. The benefits extend beyond food production. Green roofs, including those used for farming, help insulate buildings, reducing heating and cooling costs. They absorb rainwater, easing the burden on stormwater systems and reducing runoff. In dense urban areas, where impervious surfaces dominate, this can be significant. A heavy rain can overwhelm soils, sending polluted water into rivers and bays. A rooftop garden acts like a sponge, holding water and releasing it slowly. Green roofs also mitigate the urban heat island effect, the phenomenon where cities are warmer than surrounding areas due to heat absorbed by pavement and buildings. Plants cool the air through evapotranspiration, the process of water evaporating from leaves. Rooftop farms vary widely in scale and complexity. Some are simple setups, containers filled with soil where tomatoes and peppers grow. Others are elaborate operations with raised beds, irrigation systems, composting bins, and even small greenhouses. A few have become commercial ventures, supplying restaurants and grocery stores. One well-known example is in Brooklyn, New York, where a rooftop farm spanning more than an acre grows produce sold to local markets and through community-supported agriculture shares. The farm uses lightweight growing medium instead of traditional soil to avoid overloading the building structure. Structural capacity is a key consideration. Roofs are not designed to bear unlimited weight. Soil, water, plants, and people all add load. Engineers must assess whether a roof can support a farm, and lightweight materials and careful design help make it feasible. In addition to structural concerns, rooftop farmers face challenges related to wind, sun exposure, and access to water. Rooftops can be windy, which dries out plants and can damage delicate stems. Windbreaks, such as trellises or mesh barriers, help protect crops. Sun exposure is usually abundant, but it can be intense, especially in summer. Some rooftop farms use shade cloth during the hottest months. Water is essential, and hauling it to a rooftop can be labor-intensive. Many rooftop farms install rainwater catchment systems, collecting water in barrels or cisterns and using it for irrigation. Drip irrigation, which delivers water directly to plant roots, conserves water and reduces evaporation. Balconies offer another vertical growing opportunity, especially in apartment buildings where ground-level space is non-existent. Container gardening on balconies allows city dwellers to grow their own herbs, salad greens, and even dwarf fruit trees. The scale is small, but the impact can be meaningful. A few pots of basil, lettuce, and cherry tomatoes can provide fresh ingredients throughout the growing season. Balconies often receive good sunlight, and containers can be arranged to maximize space. Vertical planters, tiered shelves, and hanging baskets make it possible to grow a surprising amount in a limited area. For people living in high-rise buildings, A balcony garden can be a connection to the rhythms of growth and harvest, a green respite in a sea of concrete. Vertical farming in its most advanced form moves indoors, stacking layers of plants in controlled environments. These operations, often located in warehouses or purpose-built structures, use artificial lighting, climate control, and soil-less growing methods to produce food year-round. The term vertical farm can sometimes refer to any stacked growing system, but it is most commonly associated with these high-tech indoor facilities. They represent a different approach to urban farming, one that relies on technology and precision rather than sunlight and soil. We will explore commercial vertical farms in greater depth later, but it is worth noting here how they fit into the broader picture of vertical agriculture. By growing upward, they achieve high yields per square foot, making efficient use of urban real estate. Walls, too, have become sites for cultivation. Living walls, or green walls, are vertical structures covered with plants. While many are ornamental, some are designed to produce food. Edible living walls can grow herbs, strawberries, and leafy greens. These systems use modular panels or pockets filled with growing medium, with irrigation lines delivering water and nutrients. Living walls are visually striking and can be installed on building exteriors or in interior atriums. They contribute to air purification, as plants filter pollutants, and they add beauty to urban environments. However, they require careful maintenance, regular watering, and monitoring to prevent pests and diseases. The rise of rooftop and vertical farming has been supported in many places by policy changes and financial incentives. Some cities offer grants or tax credits for green roof installations. Others have eased zoning restrictions, allowing agricultural use of rooftops that were previously classified solely as structural or mechanical spaces. In Toronto, Canada, a bylaw requires new buildings of a certain size to include green roofs, and while not all are used for farming, the policy has spurred innovation and experimentation. In New York City, the city government has provided funding and technical support for rooftop greening projects, recognizing their environmental and social benefits. At the same time, challenges remain. Installing and maintaining a rooftop farm requires upfront investment. Lightweight growing media, irrigation systems, and structural assessments all cost money. For building owners, the return on investment may be uncertain, especially if the farm is not generating significant revenue. Labor is another consideration. Rooftop farms are often labor-intensive, requiring regular tending, harvesting, and maintenance. Access can be difficult, especially if elevators are small or rooftop entry is restricted. In some cases, insurance and liability concerns arise. What happens if someone is injured while working on the roof? These practical questions shape whether and how rooftop farming takes root. Despite these hurdles, the appeal of rooftop and vertical farming continues to grow. The image of a lush garden atop a city building captures the imagination, a sign that urban spaces can be more than functional, that they can nourish and sustain. As technology improves and costs come down, more rooftops may sprout greens, more balconies may bloom. The vertical frontier of urban farming is still being explored, layer by layer, pot by pot. Now we turn from the heights to the ground beneath, to the question of what plants grow in when soil is scarce or absent. Part 3: Soil, Substitutes, and container wisdom. In traditional farming, soil is everything. It anchors roots, holds moisture, provides nutrients, and hosts a vast community of microorganisms that support plant health. Farmers spend lifetimes learning their soil, amending it, rotating crops to preserve its fertility. But in cities, soil is often absent, contaminated, or impractical. Rooftops have none. Balconies offer no earth to dig. Abandoned lots may be laced with lead or other pollutants from decades of industrial use. Even when soil is present, its weight can be prohibitive for structures not designed to bear it. Urban farmers have adapted by turning to alternatives, developing a new relationship with what holds and feeds their plants. Container gardening is one of the simplest and most accessible forms of urban agriculture. Containers can be anything that holds growing medium and allows drainage. Plastic pots, wooden boxes, repurposed buckets, fabric grow bags, even old bathtubs and barrels have been pressed into service. The advantage of containers is mobility and control. A container garden can be placed wherever sunlight reaches. It can be moved if conditions change. The growing medium can be tailored to the needs of specific plants. And containers isolate plants from contaminated ground soil, a crucial benefit in urban settings where pollution is a concern. The medium that fills these containers is rarely plain dirt. Potting mixes designed for container use are lighter and more porous than garden soil. They typically combine ingredients like peat moss or coconut coir, perlite or vermiculite for aeration, and compost for nutrients. Peat moss, derived from decomposed sphagnum moss harvested from bogs, has long been a staple, but its use is increasingly questioned on environmental grounds. Peat bogs are important carbon sinks and ecosystems that take centuries to form. Harvesting peat releases stored carbon and damages habitats. Coconut coir, a byproduct of coconut processing, offers a renewable alternative. It retains moisture well and has a neutral pH. Perlite, a volcanic glass heated until it pops like popcorn, adds air pockets that prevent compaction and improve drainage. Vermiculite, a mineral that expands when heated, serves a similar purpose and also holds moisture. Compost, decomposed organic matter, provides nutrients and beneficial microbes. Some urban growers make their own potting mix, blending these ingredients to suit their needs and budget. Others purchase commercial mixes. The key is ensuring the medium drains well while retaining enough moisture to support plants between waterings. Containers dry out faster than ground soil, especially in sun and wind, so irrigation becomes a regular task. Drip systems, self-watering containers, and moisture-retentive additives help reduce the labor and water waste. Weight remains a practical concern, particularly on rooftops and balconies. Wet soil is heavy, roughly 100 pounds per cubic foot. Lightweight growing media reduce this load. Expanded shale, perlite, and coconut coir all weigh less than traditional soil. Some rooftop farms use engineered growing media specifically designed for green roofs, blending lightweight aggregates with organic material. These mixes support plant growth while staying within structural limits. Even so, growers must calculate the load. A large raised bed filled with wet growing medium, plus the weight of the bed itself, plants, and people tending them, can add up quickly. Nutrient management in containers differs from in-ground gardening. In the earth, plant roots can spread widely, seeking nutrients and water. Soil organisms break down organic matter, releasing nutrients over time. In a container, the volume is limited. Nutrients can be depleted quickly, especially by fast-growing crops like lettuce and tomatoes. Container gardeners compensate by adding fertilizers, either synthetic or organic. Liquid fertilizers diluted in water are common, applied every week or two during the growing season. Slow-release granular fertilizers mixed into the potting medium provide a steady supply over months. Compost tea, a liquid made by steeping compost in water, offers a gentler option rich in microbes. Organic growers may use fish emulsion, seaweed extracts, or worm castings. The challenge is finding a balance, providing enough nutrients without overfeeding, which can lead to salt buildup and root damage. Contaminated soil is a serious issue in many urban areas. Former industrial sites, old homes with lead paint, and areas near busy roads can harbor heavy metals and other toxins. Lead is particularly concerning because it persists in soil and can be absorbed by plants or ingested directly by children playing in gardens. Before planting in urban soil, testing is essential. Soil tests can reveal lead levels, pH, and nutrient content. If contamination is found, raised beds filled with clean soil or growing medium offer a solution. The beds should be deep enough and lined to prevent roots from reaching contaminated soil beneath. Some cities offer free or low-cost soil testing for community gardens and urban farms, recognizing the public health importance. In cases of severe contamination, phytoremediation, the use of plants to remove pollutants from soil, is sometimes employed. Certain plants, called hyperaccumulators, absorb heavy metals into their tissues. Sunflowers, for instance, can take up lead. However, phytoremediation is a slow process and the contaminated plants must be disposed of carefully, not composted or eaten. It is not a quick fix, but over time it can help reclaim polluted land. Composting plays a vital role in urban farming, turning food scraps and yard waste into rich soil amendment. Cities generate enormous amounts of organic waste, much of it sent to landfills where it decomposes without oxygen, producing methane, a potent greenhouse gas. Composting captures that material, breaks it down aerobically, and returns it to the soil. Urban composting can happen at various scales. Individuals maintain small bins on balconies or in backyards, using methods like vermicomposting, where worms consume food scraps and produce nutrient-rich castings. Community gardens often have compost piles where members bring vegetable peelings, coffee grounds, and leaves. Some cities have established municipal composting programs, collecting organic waste curbside and processing it at large facilities. The finished compost is sometimes made available to residents and urban farmers, closing the loop and reducing the need for synthetic fertilizers. Urban farmers also experiment with alternative growing substrates. In some hydroponic and aquaponic systems, plants grow in inert media like clay pebbles, rockwool, or coconut coir slabs. These materials provide physical support for roots but contribute no nutrients, which are supplied through water solutions. This approach, which we will explore further shortly, eliminates soil altogether. In other setups, biochar, a type of charcoal produced from organic matter, is added to potting mixes. Biochar improves water retention, provides habitat for beneficial microbes, and can sequester carbon for centuries. It is an ancient technique used by indigenous peoples in the Amazon to create fertile soils, now being rediscovered in urban contexts. The relationship between urban farmers and their growing medium is one of constant learning and adaptation. Each crop has preferences. Tomatoes like slightly acidic conditions and steady nutrients. Leafy greens prefer cooler temperatures and ample nitrogen. Root vegetables need loose, deep medium to develop properly. Blueberries require acidic conditions and consistent moisture. Understanding these needs and adjusting the growing environment accordingly is part of the craft. Over time, a grower learns to read plants, noticing yellowing leaves that signal nitrogen deficiency, stunted growth that suggests compacted roots, or wilting that indicates water stress. In cities where space is scarce and resources must be used efficiently, the medium that supports plants becomes a carefully considered choice. Whether it is a rooftop bed filled with lightweight aggregate, a balcony pot brimming with coconut coir and compost, or a hydroponic system with roots suspended in nutrient mist, the principle is the same. Give plants what they need to grow, in a form suited to the urban environment, and they will thrive. We move now from the question of what holds roots to systems where water itself becomes the medium, where soil is left behind entirely. Part 4: Hydroponics, Aeroponics, and water-efficient roots. Water flows through channels, carrying dissolved nutrients. Roots dangle into the stream, absorbing what they need. Above, leaves reach toward light, natural or artificial. No soil in sight. This is hydroponics, a method of growing plants without earth, relying instead on nutrient-rich water. It is not a new idea. Ancient civilizations, including the Hanging Gardens of Babylon if they existed as described, likely used water-based growing systems. In the 20th century, scientists refined hydroponic techniques for research and commercial production. Today, hydroponics has become a cornerstone of urban farming, especially in environments where soil is unavailable or undesirable. The term hydroponics comes from Greek words meaning water and labor. The basic principle is straightforward. Plants need water, light, carbon dioxide, oxygen, and about a dozen essential nutrients. In soil, roots extract nutrients from the earth and draw water from the ground. In hydroponics, nutrients are dissolved in water and delivered directly to roots. This directness offers several advantages. Nutrient availability can be precisely controlled. Water use is often dramatically lower than soil-based farming because it is recirculated rather than lost to drainage or evaporation. Soil-borne diseases and pests are avoided. Growth rates can be faster, as plants expend less energy searching for nutrients. And hydroponic systems can be set up almost anywhere, indoors or out, independent of soil quality. There are several hydroponic methods, each with variations. Deep water culture suspends plant roots in oxygenated nutrient solution. Plants are held in net pots with a growing medium like clay pebbles or coconut coir for support. An air pump bubbles oxygen into the water, ensuring roots do not suffocate. This method is simple and well suited for leafy greens like lettuce and herbs. Nutrient film technique involves a thin, continuous flow of nutrient solution over the roots, which are positioned in sloped channels. The flow provides both nutrients and oxygen. This system is efficient and widely used in commercial operations, though it requires careful monitoring because any interruption in flow can quickly harm plants. Ebb and flow, also called flood and drain, periodically floods growing trays with nutrient solution and then drains it back into a reservoir. This cycle ensures roots receive both nutrients and oxygen. Drip systems deliver nutrient solution directly to the base of each plant through emitters. Excess solution drains away or is recirculated. This method is versatile and can be used with various growing media. Aeroponics takes the concept further. In aeroponics, roots are suspended in air and misted with nutrient solution at regular intervals. The mist delivers water and nutrients while maximizing oxygen exposure. Aeroponic systems can achieve very high growth rates and use even less water than hydroponics. They are, however, more complex and sensitive. If the misting system fails, roots can dry out quickly. Aeroponics is often used in research and high-value crop production, including some commercial vertical farms. One of the most significant advantages of hydroponics and aeroponics in urban settings is water efficiency. Traditional soil-based agriculture uses vast amounts of water, much of it lost to evaporation, runoff, and deep percolation beyond the root zone. In a hydroponic system, water is contained and recirculated. Estimates vary, but hydroponic systems can use 90% less water than conventional farming. In cities facing water scarcity or high water costs, this efficiency is compelling. Urban vertical farms, often hydroponic, can produce large quantities of greens with minimal water input. Some systems capture and reuse all water, adding back only what plants consume through transpiration. Nutrient management in hydroponics requires precision. Plants need macronutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, as well as secondary nutrients like calcium, magnesium, and sulfur, and trace elements such as iron, manganese, zinc, copper, boron, and molybdenum. In soil, these nutrients are released gradually through microbial activity and mineral weathering. In hydroponics, they must be dissolved in the correct ratios and concentrations. Growers use pre-mixed hydroponic fertilizers or blend their own solutions. The electrical conductivity of the solution, which indicates nutrient concentration, is monitored regularly. So is pH, the measure of acidity or alkalinity. Most plants prefer a pH between 5.5 and 6.5. If pH drifts outside this range, nutrient availability changes, and plants may show deficiencies even if nutrients are present. Adjusting pH with acids or bases is a routine task. Hydroponic systems are not without challenges. They require electricity for pumps, lights if indoors, and monitoring equipment. A power outage can be disastrous if backup systems are not in place. Disease can spread quickly through recirculating water if pathogens are introduced. Root rot caused by low oxygen or fungal infection is a risk. Regular cleaning and sterilization of equipment help prevent problems. The initial setup cost can be higher than container gardening, though prices have decreased as the technology has become more widespread. Despite these challenges, hydroponics has proven its value in urban contexts. In Singapore, where land is extremely limited, hydroponic farms operate in warehouses and rooftops, producing vegetables that once had to be imported. The government has supported this shift through grants, research funding, and partnerships with private companies. In the Netherlands, a global leader in greenhouse horticulture, hydroponic systems are standard in massive glass greenhouses that export tomatoes, peppers, and flowers across Europe. These operations use precise climate control, automated nutrient delivery, and data-driven management to maximize yield and quality. The Dutch model has influenced urban farming worldwide, demonstrating what is possible when technology and expertise converge. In the United States, hydroponic urban farms have emerged in cities like Chicago, New York, and Los Angeles. Some operate as social enterprises, providing jobs and training in underserved neighborhoods while producing fresh food. Others are for-profit ventures supplying restaurants and grocery stores. Aquaponics, a related system, combines hydroponics with aquaculture, raising fish and plants together in a symbiotic cycle. Fish waste provides nutrients for plants, and plants filter and clean water for fish. We will explore aquaponics in more detail later, but it represents another innovation born from the constraints and opportunities of urban environments. Lighting is a critical component of indoor hydroponic systems. Without sunlight, artificial light must provide the energy for photosynthesis. Early indoor farms used high-intensity discharge lamps, which were powerful but inefficient and generated significant heat. The advent of LED technology transformed indoor farming. LEDs are energy efficient, long-lasting, and can be tuned to specific light spectra. Plants use primarily red and blue wavelengths for photosynthesis. Red light promotes flowering and fruiting, while blue light encourages vegetative growth. By adjusting the ratio of red to blue light, growers can influence plant development. Some LEDs also emit small amounts of green and far-red light, which affect plant morphology and can improve yield and quality. The ability to control light spectrum, intensity, and duration gives indoor hydroponic farmers a level of precision that outdoor growers can only dream of. Temperature and humidity also matter. Most crops have preferred temperature ranges. Too hot, and plants stress, transpire excessively, or fail to flower. Too cold, and growth slows or stops. Humidity affects transpiration and disease risk. High humidity can encourage fungal problems, while low humidity can stress plants and increase water use. Indoor farms use climate control systems, heating, cooling, dehumidifying, and ventilating to maintain optimal conditions. These systems add to operating costs but enable year-round production regardless of outside weather. The efficiency of hydroponic systems extends beyond water. Because growing conditions are controlled and nutrients are delivered directly, plants often grow faster and produce higher yields per square foot than in soil. Leafy greens like lettuce can go from seed to harvest in 4 to 6 weeks, compared to 6 to 8 weeks in a field. Stacking layers in a vertical farm multiplies this productivity. A warehouse that once sat empty can produce as much as several acres of farmland. For cities seeking food security and local production, this multiplication is transformative. Critics point out that hydroponics relies on inputs like electricity and manufactured nutrients, which have their own environmental footprints. If the electricity comes from fossil fuels, the carbon footprint of an indoor farm can be substantial. Renewable energy sources, increasingly affordable, offer a solution. Solar panels, wind power, and grid electricity from renewable sources can reduce or eliminate carbon emissions. Nutrient sourcing is another consideration. Some hydroponic fertilizers are derived from mined minerals or synthetic processes. Organic hydroponic systems use plant and animal-based nutrient sources, though they can be more challenging to manage. The broader question is whether the benefits, reduced water use, no pesticides, local production, and year-round availability outweigh the costs. The answer depends on context, including local energy prices, water availability, and the environmental impact of alternative food sources. For many urban farmers, hydroponics and aeroponics represent freedom. Freedom from the limitations of soil, from the unpredictability of weather, from the constraints of season and geography. In a basement in Boston or a warehouse in Tokyo, plants can flourish under LEDs, roots bathed in nutrient mist, producing food in winter just as readily as in summer. It is a departure from traditional farming, yet it is still fundamentally about nurturing life, watching seeds germinate, tending to growth, and harvesting what has been carefully cultivated. As we continue, we turn to crops that exemplify the urban farming ethos, small in stature but rich in flavor and nutrition, suited to tight spaces and quick harvests. Part 5. Microgreens, Herbs, and the Small Harvest Revolution. There is a particular satisfaction in harvesting food you have grown yourself. The act connects you to an ancient rhythm, the planting, the tending, the gathering. In cities, where space is measured in square feet rather than acres, that satisfaction often comes in small packages. Microgreens, herbs, and other compact crops have become staples of urban farming, not despite their modest size but because of it. They fit windowsills and countertops, grow quickly, and pack intense flavor and nutrition into tiny leaves. They represent a shift in thinking, from maximizing total yield to maximizing value per square inch. Microgreens are young vegetable plants harvested just after the first true leaves develop, usually 7 to 14 days after germination. They are more mature than sprouts, which are germinated seeds eaten whole including root and seed, but far younger than baby greens. Common microgreens include arugula, radish, mustard, kale, beet, pea shoots, sunflower, and basil. Each variety brings its own flavor profile. Radish microgreens have a sharp, peppery bite. Sunflower shoots are nutty and crunchy. Pea shoots taste sweet and fresh. These tiny greens are used as garnishes, added to salads, layered into sandwiches, or blended into smoothies. Chefs prize them for their vibrant colors and concentrated flavors. Nutritionally, microgreens punch above their weight. Research has shown that many microgreens contain higher concentrations of vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants than their mature counterparts. The exact levels vary by species and growing conditions, but the general pattern holds. A study comparing microgreens to mature leaves found that microgreens of red cabbage, cilantro, and garnet amaranth had particularly high levels of vitamin C, carotenoids, and vitamin K. The reasons are not entirely clear, but it is likely related to the density of nutrients in young tissue and the rapid growth rate. For urban growers and consumers seeking nutrient-dense food, microgreens offer a compelling option. Growing microgreens requires minimal space and equipment. A shallow tray, a growing medium, or even just a damp paper towel, seeds, and light are sufficient. Soil, coconut coir, or hydroponic mats work well as growing media. Seeds are sown densely, almost carpeting the surface. They germinate quickly, often within a day or two. Once sprouted, they need light. A sunny window can suffice, though many growers use LED grow lights to ensure consistent, strong growth. Microgreens do not require fertilizer because they draw nutrients from the seed itself. Water is provided by misting or bottom watering to keep the medium moist without waterlogging. Within a week or two, the greens are ready to harvest, cut just above the soil line with scissors. The entire process is fast, forgiving, and endlessly repeatable. For urban entrepreneurs, microgreens represent a viable business model. The startup costs are low. A basement, spare room, or even a closet can become a growing space. Trays stack on shelves under LED lights, and multiple harvests can be taken each month. Microgreens command premium prices, often $10 to $20 per pound or more, because of their freshness, flavor, and visual appeal. Restaurants are primary customers, using microgreens to elevate dishes with color and taste. Farmers markets and subscription boxes are other outlets. Some growers partner with local food hubs or cooperatives to reach wider audiences. The key to success is consistency, reliable quality, and building relationships with chefs and buyers. It is a labor-intensive business, with planting, watering, harvesting, and packaging happening on a tight schedule, but it scales efficiently in small urban spaces. Herbs are another cornerstone of urban farming. Basil, cilantro, parsley, mint, oregano, thyme, rosemary, chives, and dill are among the most commonly grown. Fresh herbs transform cooking, adding brightness and complexity that dried herbs cannot match. They are also relatively easy to grow in containers, on balconies, or in indoor gardens. Many herbs are perennials or can be maintained for long periods with regular harvesting, providing a continuous supply. Basil, though an annual, grows vigorously in warm conditions and can be harvested repeatedly by pinching back the top leaves, which encourages bushier growth. Mint spreads aggressively and is best kept in containers to prevent it from taking over. Rosemary and thyme are hardy, tolerating dry conditions and requiring little attention once established. Indoor herb gardens have become popular, driven by the desire for fresh ingredients year-round. Countertop hydroponic units designed for home use have entered the market, sleek appliances that automate watering and lighting. These systems make herb growing accessible to people with no gardening experience. Seeds or seedling pods are inserted, the machine provides light and water on a schedule, and within weeks, herbs are ready to harvest. While not strictly necessary, these devices lower the barrier to entry and appeal to urban dwellers seeking convenience. Critics note that such systems can be expensive and rely on proprietary pods, but they undeniably expand participation in home food production. Herbs also play a role in community and therapeutic gardens. The scents and textures of herbs engage the senses. Brushing against lavender or mint releases fragrance. The softness of lamb's ear, the stickiness of rosemary needles, the serrated edges of lemon balm all provide tactile experiences. Gardens designed for people with disabilities, memory care patients, or those seeking calm often include herbs for these reasons. In cities, where green space and sensory connection to nature can be scarce, herb gardens offer respite. Edible flowers, though less common, are another small crop suited to urban farming. Nasturtiums, pansies, violets, calendula, burrage, and marigolds are among the flowers safe to eat and visually striking. Nasturtiums have a peppery flavor similar to arugula and climb or trail, making them suitable for vertical growing. Pansies add delicate color to salads and desserts. Burrage flowers taste faintly of cucumber and can be frozen into ice cubes for drinks. Growing edible flowers in containers or small beds adds beauty and culinary interest to urban gardens. Some urban farms include them as specialty products, selling to restaurants and caterers for use in upscale dishes and event garnishes. The small harvest revolution extends to specialty greens and baby vegetables. Baby lettuce, spinach, and kale harvested at a few inches tall are tender and mild, ideal for salads. Some urban farms focus on Asian greens like bok choy, mizuna, and tatsoi, which grow quickly and have loyal followings in certain cuisines. Heirloom and unusual varieties, hard to find in grocery stores, appeal to chefs and home cooks seeking something different. Purple basil, lemon verbena, shiso, sorrel, and other uncommon plants carve out niches in the market. Urban farmers can experiment with these crops, testing what grows well and what sells, pivoting quickly based on demand. Growing small crops intensively requires attention to timing and succession planting. Unlike a field of corn that is planted once and harvested months later, microgreens, herbs, and baby greens are planted continuously to ensure a steady supply. A grower might sow new trays of microgreens every few days, staggering harvests so that product is always available. Succession planting maximizes the use of space and labor, keeping production flowing. It also spreads risk. If one tray fails due to disease or poor germination, others are at different stages and unaffected. Pest and disease management in intensive small crop systems relies on cleanliness and environment control. Damping off, a fungal disease that kills seedlings, is a common problem. It thrives in moist, stagnant conditions. Good air circulation, avoiding overwatering, and using clean trays and growing media help prevent it. Aphids, fungus gnats, and other pests can appear, especially in indoor gardens. Biological controls like predatory insects, sticky traps, and careful inspection keep pests in check without resorting to chemical sprays. In hydroponic systems, root pathogens can spread through water. Sterilizing equipment between uses and monitoring plant health closely are essential practices. The economics of small crops favor urban growers. High value per unit weight means that even modest production volumes can generate meaningful income. Transportation costs are low because the product is sold locally. Freshness is a competitive advantage. Microgreens cut in the morning can be on a restaurant plate that evening, something impossible for produce shipped from distant farms. The short growth cycles mean capital turns over quickly. Money invested in seeds and supplies converts to saleable product within weeks. For people seeking to enter farming without access to large tracts of land, Small crops offer a pathway. Education and community engagement often accompany small crop urban farming. Workshops on growing microgreens or starting an herb garden attract participants. Schools incorporate microgreen growing into science curricula, teaching students about germination, photosynthesis, and nutrition. The simplicity and speed of microgreens make them ideal for educational settings. Within a classroom growing cycle, students can observe the entire process from seed to harvest, tasting the results and discussing what they have learned. Community centers and libraries sometimes host herb and microgreen exchanges, where people share seeds, cuttings, and tips, building networks of urban growers. As we move forward, we shift from the plant kingdom to the animal, exploring how small-scale animal husbandry fits into the urban farming landscape. Part 6: Beekeeping, Poultry, and Small-Scale Animal Care. Urban farming is not limited to plants. Animals, too, have found their place in the city, though the scale and species differ greatly from rural livestock operations. Chickens scratch in backyard coops, bees forage among rooftop gardens and street trees, and in some places, rabbits, quail, and even goats contribute to urban food systems. These animals offer more than food. They provide ecological services, connect people to agricultural cycles, and foster a sense of stewardship. Yet keeping animals in cities also raises questions about zoning, noise, waste, and welfare. The integration of animals into urban farming is a delicate balance, shaped by regulation, culture, and practicality. Beekeeping, or apiculture, has experienced a resurgence in cities worldwide. Bees are essential pollinators, visiting flowers to collect nectar and pollen, transferring pollen between plants in the process. Many crops depend on this pollination to produce fruit and seeds. Even in cities, bees play a vital role, pollinating community gardens, rooftop farms, and urban orchards. Beyond their ecological function, bees produce honey, a natural sweetener with cultural and culinary significance. Urban beekeepers maintain hives on rooftops, in backyards, and sometimes in public parks, harvesting honey while supporting pollinator populations. Urban beekeeping is not without controversy. In the early 21st century, several cities lifted long-standing bans on beekeeping, recognizing its benefits. New York City legalized beekeeping in 2010. Paris, London, and many other cities followed suit or clarified regulations to allow it. The shift reflected growing interest in local food production and environmental stewardship. However, concerns persist. Some worry that honeybees, which are not native to many regions, compete with native pollinators for resources. Studies on this question have yielded mixed results, with some suggesting that in certain contexts, high densities of managed honeybees can reduce resources available to wild bees and other pollinators. Responsible beekeepers site hives thoughtfully, avoid overstocking areas, and plant pollinator-friendly flowers to increase available forage. Neighbors sometimes object to bees, fearing stings or viewing hives as a nuisance. In reality, honeybees are generally docile, especially when hives are well managed and located away from high traffic areas. Bees are most offensive when their hive is threatened or during nectar dearths when resources are scarce. Urban beekeepers take steps to minimize conflict. Hives are placed behind fences or screens, forcing bees to fly upward before dispersing, so they pass over people's heads. Water sources are provided near hives, so bees are less likely to congregate at neighbors' pools or bird baths. Education helps, too. Explaining the role of bees, inviting neighbors to observe hive inspections, and sharing honey can build understanding and goodwill. Regulations governing urban beekeeping vary widely. Some cities require permits, hive registration, or completion of a beekeeping course. Setback requirements dictate how far hives must be from property lines. Limits on the number of hives per lot are common. These regulations aim to balance the benefits of beekeeping with the rights and concerns of other residents. Beekeeping associations often provide training and mentorship, helping newcomers learn the craft. The learning curve is real. Beekeepers must understand hive dynamics, recognize signs of disease, manage pests like varroa mites, and intervene when necessary to ensure colony health. It is a commitment, requiring regular inspections and seasonal management, but many find it deeply rewarding. Urban chickens have also grown in popularity. Backyard poultry keeping, once common before the industrialization of agriculture, is experiencing a revival. Hens provide fresh eggs, consume kitchen scraps, and produce manure that can be composted and used as fertilizer. For families seeking to reduce their environmental footprint or teach children about food sources, a small flock of chickens offers tangible lessons. The birds are relatively low maintenance, needing a secure coop, access to water and feed, and some space to roam or scratch. Cities approach backyard chickens with a patchwork of regulations. Many allow hens but prohibit roosters, which crow loudly and can disturb neighbors. Limits on flock size, often 3 to 6 hens per household, are typical. Coops must meet standards for setback from property lines, ventilation, and predator protection. Chickens themselves are remarkably adaptable. Breeds like Rhode Island Reds, Plymouth Rocks, and Australorps are hardy and prolific layers, producing an egg nearly every day during peak seasons. In winter, egg production slows as daylight decreases, but some urban keepers use artificial lighting to extend laying. Challenges include predators, disease, and the commitment of daily care. Even in cities, raccoons, foxes, hawks, and rats pose threats to chickens. Secure coops with strong latches, buried wire to prevent digging, and covered runs protect flocks. Diseases like avian influenza and Marek's disease can affect backyard birds, though biosecurity practices such as quarantining new birds and limiting contact with wild birds reduce risk. Chickens also require care during vacations or absences. Neighbors, friends, or pet sitters can help, but it is a responsibility to consider. Urban chicken keeping is not solely about eggs. Some people raise chickens for meat, though this is less common in cities and often more regulated. Processing poultry at home requires knowledge, equipment, and, in many places, permits. Most urban chicken keepers focus on eggs, enjoying the birds as pets as much as livestock. Chickens have personalities, establish social hierarchies, and can become quite tame with regular interaction. Children often delight in collecting eggs and feeding the birds, connecting to the source of their food in a direct way. Rabbits are another animal suited to small-scale urban farming. They reproduce quickly, have a high feed conversion ratio, and produce lean meat. In some cultures, rabbit is a traditional protein source, and urban rabbit keeping reflects those traditions. Rabbits require less space than chickens and are quieter, making them feasible in more densely populated areas. However, they are less common than chickens in most urban farming contexts, partly because of cultural preferences and partly because of the sensitivities around raising animals for meat in residential areas. Quail, smaller and quieter than chickens, are raised by some urban farmers for eggs and meat. Coturnix quail begin laying eggs at around 6 weeks of age and are highly productive. Their small size means they can be kept in compact spaces, even indoors in some setups. Quail eggs are a delicacy in many cuisines, and there is niche market demand. Regulations often lump quail with poultry, subject to similar restrictions as chickens, though their unobtrusive nature means enforcement issues are rare. Goats, though larger and more demanding, appear in a few urban farming contexts. Miniature or dwarf breeds are sometimes kept for milk in areas where zoning permits. Goats are browsers, eating a wide variety of plants, and have been used in cities for vegetation management, clearing overgrown lots or controlling invasive species. Targeted grazing with goats is an environmentally friendly alternative to mechanical clearing or herbicides. Chicago, Los Angeles, and other cities have employed goats for this purpose, sometimes to positive public reception and media attention. However, keeping goats as livestock in residential neighborhoods is rare and often prohibited. Fish farming, or aquaculture, also fits into urban animal husbandry. Small-scale fish tanks, sometimes integrated into aquaponic systems, raise tilapia, catfish, trout, or ornamental species. Tilapia are popular in aquaponics because they tolerate a range of conditions, grow quickly, and are edible. Aquaculture in cities faces challenges including water quality management, space requirements, and regulations around water discharge. We will examine aquaponics more closely in the next section, but it is worth noting here as part of the broader picture of urban animal farming. The ethical dimensions of keeping animals in cities deserve consideration. Animals require appropriate care, space, and conditions to thrive. Overcrowding, neglect, or inadequate shelter cause suffering. Urban farmers who keep animals bear a responsibility to ensure their welfare. This includes providing adequate food and water, protecting them from weather and predators, monitoring for illness, and, when animals are raised for meat, ensuring humane slaughter. Many municipalities and animal welfare organizations offer guidelines and support for backyard animal keepers. Education is crucial. First-time chicken keepers may underestimate the commitment or lack knowledge about disease prevention. Beekeepers need training to avoid harming bees or spreading pests between hives. Waste management is another practical concern. Chicken manure is high in nitrogen and, if not managed properly, can create odors and attract pests. Composting manure with carbon-rich materials like straw or leaves breaks it down into valuable fertilizer. Beehives produce minimal waste, mainly wax and propolis, which beekeepers often use or sell. Fish waste in aquaculture systems is typically converted to plant nutrients in aquaponic setups, closing the loop. Urban animal farming also intersects with food justice and cultural food practices. For immigrant communities, keeping chickens, rabbits, or bees may be a continuation of traditions from home countries. Access to culturally appropriate food, including specific types of meat or honey, matters. Regulations that prohibit these practices can feel exclusionary. Conversely, animal welfare standards protect both animals and public health. Balancing these considerations requires dialogue, culturally sensitive policymaking, and flexibility where possible. Despite the challenges, urban animal farming enriches the food system. Bees pollinate gardens, increasing yields. Chickens turn waste into eggs and fertility. The presence of animals in cities reminds people that food production is more than plants in soil, that it involves living creatures and cycles of life and death. For children growing up in cities, encountering a chicken, watching bees work, or collecting an egg can be formative, sparking curiosity and respect for the natural world. As we continue, we will explore a system that merges plant and animal agriculture, creating a symbiotic cycle where each supports the other. Part 7: Aquaponics and Symbiotic Systems. There is an elegance to systems that close loops, where waste from one process becomes food for another, where elements cycle rather than flow in one direction and disappear. Aquaponics embodies this elegance. It combines aquaculture, the raising of fish, with hydroponics, the growing of plants in water, creating a symbiotic relationship that benefits both. Fish live in tanks, eating and producing waste. That waste, rich in ammonia, would quickly become toxic if allowed to accumulate. But in an aquaponic system, water from the fish tanks flows to grow beds where plants are rooted. Beneficial bacteria convert ammonia first into nitrites and then into nitrates, which plants absorb as fertilizer. The plants clean the water, which then returns to the fish tanks, purified and oxygenated. The cycle continues, a miniature ecosystem sustained by interdependence. Aquaponics is not a new invention. Ancient civilizations, including the Aztecs with their chinampas and ricefish farming systems in Asia, used integrated approaches where fish and plants supported one another. Modern aquaponics emerged in the late 20th century as researchers and farmers refined the technique, understanding the biological and chemical processes involved. Today, aquaponics has found a niche in urban farming, appealing to those who value sustainability, efficiency, and the beauty of interconnected systems. It is practiced at scales ranging from small home setups to commercial operations, producing thousands of pounds of fish and vegetables annually. The components of an aquaponic system are straightforward. Fish tanks hold the aquatic animals, typically tilapia, trout, catfish, perch, or ornamental species like koi. Tilapia are especially popular because they tolerate a wide range of water temperatures and conditions, grow quickly, and taste mild. Trout require cooler water but are prized as food fish. The choice of species depends on climate, market demand, and the grower's goals. Grow beds contain plants, often leafy greens like lettuce, herbs like basil, or fruiting plants like tomatoes and peppers. The medium in the grow beds can be gravel, expanded clay pebbles, or other inert materials that provide support for roots and surface area for beneficial bacteria. A pump circulates water from the fish tanks through the grow beds and back. Aeration devices add oxygen to the water, essential for both fish and the aerobic bacteria that convert ammonia. The nitrogen cycle is the heart of aquaponics. Fish excrete ammonia through their gills and in their waste. Ammonia is toxic to fish even at low concentrations. In an established aquaponic system, colonies of nitrifying bacteria, primarily Nitrosomonas and Nitrobacter species, colonize surfaces in the grow beds and biofilter. Nitrosomonas bacteria convert ammonia into nitrite, which is also toxic to fish. Nitrobacter bacteria then convert nitrite into nitrate, which is far less toxic and is the form of nitrogen most readily used by plants. Plants absorb nitrate, along with other dissolved nutrients, effectively removing it from the water. This biological filtration is continuous and, once established, requires little intervention beyond monitoring. Starting an aquaponic system involves a period called cycling, during which bacterial populations establish. This process can take several weeks. During cycling, ammonia and nitrite levels rise and then fall as bacteria proliferate. Fish are not added until the system is fully cycled, or only a few hardy fish are introduced to provide the ammonia needed to feed bacterial growth. Testing water regularly for ammonia, nitrite, nitrate, and pH is essential during this phase and ongoing operation. pH affects both fish health and nutrient availability for plants. Most systems aim for a pH between 6.5 and 7, a compromise that suits both fish and plants reasonably well. If pH drifts too high or too low, it can be adjusted with buffers, though frequent adjustments suggest an imbalance that should be addressed. Water quality is paramount in aquaponics. Unlike soil-based or simple hydroponic systems where problems develop slowly, aquaponics can shift quickly because fish are vulnerable. A pump failure that stops water circulation can lead to oxygen depletion and fish deaths within hours. Power outages are a significant risk. Backup systems, such as battery-powered air pumps, provide insurance. Temperature also matters. Most fish have preferred ranges, and both cold snaps and heat waves can stress or kill them. Insulating tanks, using heaters or chillers, and situating systems in climate-controlled environments help maintain stability. Feeding fish is a regular task. Commercial fish feed, formulated pellets that float or sink, provides balanced nutrition. The amount fed depends on fish size, species, and water temperature, which affects metabolism. Overfeeding wastes money and degrades water quality as uneaten food decomposes. Underfeeding stunts growth. Experienced aquaponics growers observe their fish, adjusting feed based on appetite and behavior. Some growers supplement commercial feed with duckweed, black soldier fly larvae, or worms, either grown on site or purchased. These alternatives can reduce costs and provide more natural diets, though they require additional labor and space. Plants in aquaponics grow well because they receive consistent nutrients and water. Growth rates are often comparable to hydroponics. Leafy greens and herbs thrive, maturing quickly and producing multiple harvests. Fruiting plants like tomatoes, peppers, and cucumbers also do well, though they require more nutrients, particularly potassium and calcium, than fish waste alone provides. Supplementing with these minerals, often by adding them directly to the water, ensures healthy fruiting. Iron is another nutrient that sometimes needs supplementation, as fish feed may not provide enough for vigorous plant growth. One of the advantages of aquaponics is water efficiency. Like hydroponics, aquaponics uses significantly less water than soil-based farming. Water is lost primarily through evaporation and plant transpiration, but the closed-loop nature means little is wasted. Some estimates suggest aquaponics uses 90% less water than conventional agriculture. In urban areas with limited water supplies or high water costs, this efficiency is attractive. Additionally, because water is recirculated, there is no nutrient runoff polluting streams and rivers, a problem with conventional agriculture and even some hydroponic operations that discharge excess nutrient solution. Aquaponics also eliminates the need for synthetic fertilizers. The fish provide all the nutrients, making the system organic in spirit, though certification as organic can be complicated. Some organic certification bodies accept aquaponics, while others do not, depending on interpretation of soil-based growing requirements. For growers and consumers focused on sustainability rather than labels, this distinction may matter less. Challenges in aquaponics include complexity, startup costs, and the need for knowledge across multiple domains. A successful aquaponics farmer must understand fish biology, water chemistry, plant nutrition, plumbing, and system design. The learning curve is steep. Mistakes can be costly, leading to fish losses or crop failures. Training programs, online communities, and workshops help newcomers navigate the complexities. Organizations and universities in various countries offer courses in aquaponics, recognizing its potential for sustainable food production. Commercial aquaponics operations have emerged in cities around the world. In Milwaukee, Wisconsin, a large aquaponics facility produces tens of thousands of pounds of greens and fish annually, supplying local markets and creating jobs in a neighborhood with high unemployment. In Australia, aquaponics farms operate in urban and peri-urban areas, some integrated with restaurants or educational centers. In developing countries, aquaponics is explored as a way to address food insecurity and malnutrition, providing protein from fish and vitamins from vegetables in compact systems. International development organizations have supported aquaponics projects in Africa, Asia, and Latin America, adapting designs to local conditions and available materials. Home-scale aquaponics has a dedicated following. Enthusiasts build systems in backyards, basements, or garages, often starting small and expanding as they gain experience. Online forums and social media groups share designs, troubleshoot problems, and celebrate successes. Some home growers raise fish primarily for fertilizer, enjoying the gardening aspect more than eating the fish. Others eagerly anticipate the harvest, cleaning and cooking tilapia or trout they have raised themselves. The satisfaction of producing both vegetables and protein from a single integrated system appeals to people seeking self-sufficiency and resilience. Research into aquaponics continues to refine techniques and explore new possibilities. Scientists study optimal stocking densities for fish, plant spacing, lighting regimes, and system designs that maximize efficiency and minimize risk. Innovations include decoupled aquaponics, where fish and plant systems are separated, allowing independent control of each environment while still sharing water and nutrients. This approach sacrifices some of the elegant simplicity of fully integrated systems but offers greater flexibility and can improve outcomes for both fish and plants. Aquaponics represents a philosophy as much as a technique. It embodies the idea that waste is a resource, that systems can be designed to mimic natural cycles, and that food production can be regenerative rather than extractive. In cities, where resources are often consumed and waste exported, aquaponics offers a model of circularity. It is a quiet revolution, happening in warehouses and backyards, where fish swim and plants grow, each supporting the other, and where people tend the balance, learning patience and attentiveness in the process. We turn now from the technical and ecological to the social, exploring how urban farming builds community and addresses questions of access and justice. Part 8: Community Gardens, Food Justice, and Social Roots. Urban farming is often portrayed through images of high-tech vertical farms or sleek rooftop gardens, but some of its deepest roots lie in community gardens, modest plots where neighbors gather to grow food, share knowledge, and build relationships. Community gardens have existed for more than a century, emerging during economic downturns, wars, and social movements as spaces of resilience and solidarity. They are less about maximizing yield than about maximizing connection to the land, to food, and to one another. In cities where isolation and inequality are pervasive, community gardens offer something essential: a sense of belonging and agency. A community garden is typically a piece of land divided into individual or shared plots where people grow vegetables, fruits, flowers, and herbs. The land may be publicly owned, perhaps a city park or vacant lot, or privately held and leased or donated for gardening. Governance structures vary. Some gardens are managed by non-profits or neighborhood associations, others by informal collectives. Decisions about plot assignments, rules, workdays, and shared spaces are made collectively, often through meetings and consensus. This democratic process is part of what makes community gardens significant. Participants learn to negotiate, compromise, and collaborate, skills that extend beyond the garden fence. The history of community gardens in the United States illustrates their cyclical resurgence during times of need. Victory gardens during World Wars I and II mobilized millions of Americans to grow food, reducing pressure on commercial agriculture and transportation networks. At their peak, Victory gardens produced nearly half the vegetables consumed in the country. After the wars, suburban expansion and industrial agriculture made home food production less necessary, and many gardens disappeared. In the 1970s, during economic recession and urban decline, community gardens re-emerged, often on abandoned lots in struggling neighborhoods. Activists and residents reclaimed neglected land, clearing trash and rubble, bringing in soil and planting seeds. These gardens were acts of resistance and hope, asserting that communities could care for themselves and their environments. Similar patterns appear globally. In Cuba, the economic collapse following the Soviet Union's dissolution in the early 1990s led to severe food shortages. The government encouraged urban agriculture, and Cubans responded by transforming vacant lots, yards, and rooftops into productive gardens. Organopanicos, raised bed gardens using organic methods, became widespread in Havana and other cities. These gardens produce significant portions of fresh vegetables for local consumption, demonstrating that urban farming could address food security at scale. Cuba's experience is often cited as a model, though it emerged from crisis rather than choice. In cities across Africa, Asia, and Latin America, Urban and peri-urban agriculture has long been practiced, driven by poverty and the need to supplement household food supplies. Informal gardens on roadsides, riverbanks, and empty land provide vegetables, greens, and income for families. These gardens are often precarious, subject to eviction or destruction when land is claimed for development. Recognizing their importance, some municipal governments have begun to provide support, allocating land, offering training, and integrating urban agriculture into city planning. Accra, Nairobi, and Kampala have all seen initiatives to formalize and support urban farming. Community gardens address food access, but their impact goes beyond nutrition. In neighborhoods classified as food deserts, where full-service grocery stores are absent and residents rely on convenience stores with limited fresh produce, community gardens offer an alternative. A family with a garden plot can grow tomatoes, peppers, greens, and squash throughout the season, supplementing their diet with fresh, nutritious food. The cost is labor and time rather than money, making it accessible to low-income households. Some community gardens donate a portion of their harvest to food banks or distribute it to members who cannot afford to buy vegetables. Food justice, the principle that everyone deserves access to healthy, affordable, and culturally appropriate food, is central to many urban farming efforts. Food justice advocates argue that food insecurity is not simply about scarcity but about power and inequality. Poverty, racism, and disinvestment create conditions where some communities lack access to good food while others have abundance. Urban farming, particularly when led by and for marginalized communities, is a tool for addressing these imbalances. It puts control of food production in the hands of those most affected by food insecurity. Organizations working at the intersection of urban farming and food justice often prioritize education, employment, and empowerment alongside food production. Youth programs teach teenagers to grow food, cook healthy meals, and understand food systems. Participants gain job skills, leadership experience, and connections to mentors. Some programs pay youth stipends or wages, providing income and work experience. Formerly incarcerated individuals, immigrants, and people facing barriers to employment find opportunities in urban farming enterprises, learning skills that can lead to careers in agriculture, food service, or environmental fields. Cultural considerations shape what and how people grow. Community gardens in immigrant neighborhoods often reflect the food traditions of residents. Hong gardeners in Minnesota grow bitter melon, lemongrass, and Thai basil. Mexican families cultivate tomatillos, epazote, and chilies. African communities plant okra, collard greens, and African eggplant. These culturally specific crops may be unavailable or expensive in stores, making gardens vital for maintaining food traditions. Gardens become cultural spaces, places where languages, recipes, and farming techniques are shared across generations. Therapeutic and educational benefits also distinguish community gardens. Gardening is shown to reduce stress, improve mood, and provide gentle physical activity. Horticultural therapy programs use gardening to support mental health recovery, rehabilitation, and cognitive function. Digging, planting, and weeding offer rhythmic, absorbing tasks that quiet anxious minds. Watching plants grow fosters patience and a sense of accomplishment. For people experiencing homelessness, addiction, or trauma, gardens can provide structure, purpose, and community. Schools with gardens integrate them into curricula, teaching science, math, nutrition, and environmental stewardship. Students plant seeds, observe germination, measure growth, and investigate insects and soil. They harvest vegetables and prepare them in cooking classes, learning where food comes from and how to prepare it. Studies suggest that children who participate in garden-based learning are more willing to try vegetables and have better understanding of nutrition. Gardens also encourage outdoor time and physical activity, countering sedentary lifestyles. Challenges facing community gardens include land tenure, funding, and participation. Many gardens operate on land they do not own, vulnerable to development or policy changes. When property values rise, landowners or municipalities may reclaim garden land for housing, commercial projects, or infrastructure. Long-term leases, land trusts, and zoning protections help secure garden sites, but the threat of displacement persists. Gentrification complicates this further. As neighborhoods change, rising rents push out long-time residents who created and sustained gardens, and newcomers may not share the same commitment. Funding is another perennial issue. Community gardens often rely on grants, donations, and volunteer labor. Costs include soil, tools, seeds, water, insurance, and maintenance. Some gardens charge modest plot fees to members, but fees must remain affordable. Grants from city agencies, foundations, and corporations provide support, though grant writing and reporting require time and expertise. Volunteers do much of the work, but turnover and burnout are common. Sustaining a garden year after year demands dedication and leadership. Participation can be uneven. In some gardens, a core group of committed members does most of the work while others are less engaged. Conflicts arise over plot maintenance, water use, and shared responsibilities. Clear rules and communication help, but managing a collective space requires ongoing effort. Cultural and language differences can create misunderstandings, and gardens must navigate these dynamics with sensitivity and inclusiveness. Despite these challenges, community gardens persist and multiply. Data from various cities show steady growth in the number of community gardens over recent decades. New York City has hundreds, many managed by Green Thumb, a city program that supports community gardens with resources and land leases. San Francisco, Seattle, Philadelphia, and other cities have robust community garden networks. Internationally, cities like London, Berlin, Tokyo, and Melbourne have seen community garden movements flourish. Policy support strengthens community gardens. Municipal programs that provide land, water subsidies, grants, and technical assistance make a tangible difference. Zoning codes that explicitly permit community gardens protect them from legal challenges. Some cities have urban agriculture coordinators or offices dedicated to supporting food production. Public-private partnerships bring together government, non-profits, and businesses to fund and develop gardens. Philanthropic foundations increasingly recognize urban agriculture as a strategy for addressing food insecurity, public health, and environmental sustainability. Community gardens also serve as sites for social movements and political organizing. Gardens have been spaces where communities mobilize around environmental justice, land rights, and community control. The act of cultivating a garden in a neglected neighborhood is a form of placemaking, asserting that the community matters and deserves care. Gardens can become centers for organizing around other issues, hosting meetings, workshops, and cultural events. The relationships built in gardens extend into broader efforts for social change. At their best, community gardens are microcosms of the world many people hope to create, places where diversity is celebrated, resources are shared, decisions are made collectively, and people work together toward common goals. They are imperfect, sometimes messy, and always evolving, much like the communities they serve. But in a world where so much feels out of individual control, gardens offer a tangible way to make a difference. One seed, one plot, one harvest at a time. We move now to consider another dimension of urban agriculture, its role in managing urban ecosystems and enhancing environmental health. Part 9. Green roofs, stormwater, and urban ecology. Cities are built environments, shaped by human hands and needs. Concrete, asphalt, steel, and glass dominate the landscape, surfaces that absorb heat, shed water, and offer little to the living systems that once occupied the space. This transformation creates challenges. Urban heat islands make cities several degrees warmer than surrounding areas, increasing energy use for cooling and posing health risks during heat waves. Stormwater runoff overwhelms drainage systems, carrying pollutants into waterways and causing flooding. Air quality suffers from vehicle emissions and industrial activity. Biodiversity declines as habitats disappear. Green roofs, including those used for food production, offer a way to address some of these problems, bringing ecological function back into the urban fabric. A green roof is any roof partially or completely covered with vegetation and a growing medium, installed over a waterproofing membrane. Green roofs fall into two broad categories. Extensive green roofs have shallow growing media, typically 2 to 6 inches deep, and support low-maintenance plants like sedums, mosses, and grasses. They are lightweight, require minimal irrigation, and are chosen primarily for environmental benefits rather than access or use. Intensive green roofs have deeper soil, often 6 inches to several feet, and can support a wider variety of plants including shrubs, trees, vegetables, and gardens. These roofs are heavier, more expensive, and require more maintenance, but they offer greater potential for food production, recreation, and habitat creation. Rooftop farms are a form of intensive green roof, designed specifically for agriculture. The environmental benefits of green roofs are well documented. They reduce stormwater runoff by absorbing rainwater in the growing medium and releasing it slowly through evapotranspiration. Studies have found that green roofs can retain 50 to 90% of rainfall, depending on roof design, plant type, and climate. This retention eases the burden on urban drainage systems. In many older cities, stormwater and sewage share infrastructure. During heavy rains, combined systems can overflow, sending untreated sewage into rivers and lakes. By capturing rain on rooftops, green roofs help prevent these overflows. The water that does run off is cleaner, filtered through soil and roots rather than washing directly over impervious surfaces that accumulate pollutants. Green roofs also mitigate the urban heat island effect. Dark roofs absorb sunlight, heating up and radiating warmth into the air and back into buildings. Temperatures on conventional roofs can reach 150 degrees Fahrenheit or more on hot days. Green roofs remain much cooler, typically within 10 to 30 degrees of air temperature, because plants shade the surface and evapotranspiration dissipates heat. This cooling effect reduces the energy needed for air conditioning, lowering electricity use and associated greenhouse gas emissions. At the neighborhood or city scale, widespread green roof adoption can lower ambient air temperatures, improving comfort and reducing heat-related illnesses. Insulation is another benefit. The soil and vegetation layer adds thermal mass, keeping buildings cooler in summer and warmer in winter. This reduces heating and cooling costs. The waterproofing membrane beneath a green roof is also protected from ultraviolet radiation, temperature extremes, and physical damage, extending its lifespan. Conventional roofs may need replacement every 15 to 20 years. Green roofs can double that, reducing waste and long-term costs. Air quality improves as plants on green roofs filter pollutants and capture particulate matter. Leaves and soil absorb carbon dioxide, nitrogen oxides, and volatile organic compounds. While the impact of a single green roof is modest, at scale across a city, the cumulative effect becomes meaningful. Green roofs also provide habitat for insects, birds, and other urban wildlife. Pollinators visit flowering plants, finding nectar and pollen. Birds forage for insects and seeds. In cities where natural habitat is fragmented or absent, green roofs create stepping stones, small patches that support biodiversity and ecological connectivity. The integration of food production onto green roofs adds another layer of benefit. Rooftop farms produce fresh food while delivering the environmental services of green roofs. Water used for irrigation can be captured from rainfall, reducing demand on municipal supplies. Compost generated on-site from plant waste and food scraps returns nutrients to the growing medium. Some rooftop farms partner with beekeepers, hosting hives that support pollination across the neighborhood. The presence of food production on rooftops also raises awareness about urban agriculture and sustainability, making these issues visible in the skyline. Policies and incentives have driven green roof adoption in several cities. Germany, particularly the city of Stuttgart, pioneered green roof policy in the 1980s, motivated by air quality concerns and stormwater management. German cities offer grants and require green roofs on new buildings under certain conditions. The approach has been successful, with green roofs now common across the country. Toronto adopted a green roof bylaw in 2009, the first in North America, requiring new commercial and residential buildings over certain size to include green roofs. The city also provides grants to offset costs. Copenhagen, Basel, and Singapore have similar mandates and incentives, recognizing green roofs as infrastructure that delivers public benefits. In the United States, cities like Portland, San Francisco, and Washington, D.C., have developed green roof programs, offering technical guidance, grants, and sometimes stormwater fee reductions for property owners who install green roofs. The incentives acknowledge that green roofs provide services, managing rainwater and cooling the city, that benefit everyone, not just the building owner. By subsidizing installation, Cities encourage adoption and leverage private investment in public environmental goals. Challenges to green roof implementation include cost, structural considerations, and maintenance. Installing a green roof is more expensive than a conventional roof, with costs varying widely depending on design, materials, and location. Extensive green roofs are less costly, while intensive roofs with deep soil and diverse plantings are significantly more expensive. Structural capacity must be assessed. Many existing buildings cannot support the added weight without reinforcement. New buildings can be designed with green roofs in mind, but retrofitting older structures is often impractical. Maintenance requirements also vary. Extensive green roofs need minimal care, perhaps annual weeding and inspection. Intensive green roofs, especially those used for farming, require regular watering, weeding, fertilizing, and harvesting, much like any garden. Access is another consideration. Rooftops are not always easy to reach. Narrow stairwells, locked doors, and safety concerns limit who can tend a rooftop garden. For community gardens on roofs, ensuring that all members can access the space safely is important. Elevators, wide staircases, and clear pathways help. Liability and insurance issues sometimes arise. Building owners worry about injuries or damage. Clear agreements, insurance coverage, and safety protocols address these concerns but add complexity. Despite these barriers, green roofs continue to spread. In dense cities where ground-level space is limited, roofs represent an underutilized resource. Transforming them into productive, ecologically functional spaces makes sense, both environmentally and socially. The view from above changes when rooftops bloom with green, a reminder that cities need not be entirely grey, that nature and human habitation can coexist. Urban ecology, the study of ecosystems in cities, recognizes that cities are not devoid of nature but are complex environments where human and natural processes interact. Urban farms, including green roofs, are part of this ecology. They provide ecosystem services, contribute to biodiversity, and shape the environmental conditions of neighborhoods. Understanding urban farming through an ecological lens helps illuminate its broader significance. It is not just about food, but about creating healthier, more resilient urban environments where people, plants, and animals all find space to thrive. As we continue, we shift focus to large-scale commercial operations, examining how vertical farms operate as businesses and what they mean for urban food systems. Part 10: Commercial Vertical Farms and the High-Rise Harvest. The warehouse is quiet except for the hum of ventilation and the soft clicks of automated systems. Inside, under banks of LED lights casting a purple glow, row after row of lettuce grows on stacked shelves reaching toward the ceiling. No soil, no sun, no rain. Temperature and humidity are precisely controlled. Nutrient solution flows through channels, feeding roots that dangle in the air or rest in inert growing medium. This is a commercial vertical farm, an industrial-scale operation designed to produce large quantities of fresh greens year-round in the heart of a city. It represents a vision of agriculture divorced from traditional constraints, where technology replaces nature's rhythms, and food is grown where people live. Vertical farming in its commercial form is a relatively recent phenomenon. The term gained prominence in the early 2000s, popularized by ecologist Dixon Despomier, who envisioned multi-story buildings dedicated to food production in cities. While full high-rise farms remain rare, the concept has evolved into warehouse-based operations that stack growing layers vertically, maximizing production per square foot. These farms use hydroponic or aeroponic systems, controlled environment agriculture techniques that manage every variable from light spectrum to carbon dioxide levels. The goal is efficiency, producing more food with less land, water, and labor than conventional farming, and doing so close to urban consumers. Several companies have emerged as leaders in commercial vertical farming. Aerofarms, based in Newark, New Jersey, operates one of the world's largest vertical farms, producing millions of pounds of greens annually. Plenty, a California-based company backed by significant venture capital, has built farms in the United States and internationally. Bowery Farming operates facilities near New York City, using proprietary software to monitor and adjust growing conditions in real time. In Asia, Sky Greens in Singapore and Spread in Japan have developed automated vertical farms tailored to local markets. These companies share a common narrative. Vertical farming is the future of food, solving problems of resource scarcity, climate change, and urbanization. The economics of vertical farming are complex. Startup costs are high. Building or retrofitting a facility, installing grow racks, LED lighting, climate control, and automation systems requires substantial capital investment, often millions of dollars. Operating costs include electricity for lights and climate control, water, nutrients, labor, and maintenance. Electricity is the largest expense. LEDs are efficient compared to older lighting technologies, but running lights 16 to 18 hours a day across thousands of square feet consumes significant power. In regions where electricity is expensive or generated from fossil fuels, this raises both cost and environmental concerns. Vertical farms sited in areas with cheap renewable electricity, such as hydropower in the Pacific Northwest or solar in sunny climates, have an advantage. Revenue depends on yield, crop choice, and market prices. Vertical farms focus on high-value crops with short growth cycles. Leafy greens like lettuce, arugula, and spinach are favorites, growing quickly and commanding premium prices. Herbs such as basil, cilantro, and mint also do well. Some farms have expanded into microgreens, edible flowers, and specialty salads. These products appeal to restaurants, grocery stores, and consumers willing to pay more for freshness, local production, and consistent quality. Vertical farms market their produce as ultra-fresh, often harvested and delivered within hours, with extended shelf life because roots are sometimes left attached. The absence of pesticides and the controlled environment reduce contamination risks, a selling point in an era of food safety concerns. Profitability has been elusive for many vertical farming companies. While some have achieved operational efficiency and positive cash flow, others have struggled. High capital costs, long payback periods, and competition from conventional agriculture and greenhouses challenge the business model. Lettuce grown in open fields in California or Arizona is cheap, even after transportation costs. Greenhouse-grown lettuce from Canada or Mexico occupies a middle ground, more expensive than field-grown but less than vertical farm produce. Vertical farms must justify their premium price through quality, sustainability messaging, or unique attributes. Some have pivoted strategies, focusing on niche products, partnering with retailers for branded lines, or targeting markets where conventional supply chains are weak, such as regions with harsh climates or limited arable land. Technology and automation are central to the vertical farming value proposition. Sensors monitor temperature, humidity, carbon dioxide, light intensity, and nutrient concentrations. Data feeds into software systems that adjust conditions automatically. Machine learning algorithms analyze patterns, optimizing growth and predicting yields. Some farms use robotic systems for seeding, transplanting, and harvesting, reducing labor costs and increasing consistency. The integration of technology makes vertical farms as much data companies as agricultural ones. Employees include not only growers but also engineers, data scientists, and software developers. The controlled environment allows for precision. Light spectrum can be tuned to encourage specific plant characteristics. More blue light yields compact, leafy growth. More red light promotes flowering and fruiting. Adjusting photo period, the length of light exposure, influences plant development. Carbon dioxide enrichment, raising CO2 levels above the roughly 400 parts per million found in the atmosphere, can increase photosynthesis and growth rates. Temperature, humidity, and airflow are managed to prevent disease and stress. This level of control is impossible in fields or even traditional greenhouses, where weather intrudes. Pest and disease management in vertical farms benefits from the closed environment. Without soil, many soil-borne pathogens are absent. Physical barriers and air filtration keep insects out. However, vigilance is necessary. Aphids, thrips, and fungus gnats can still appear, sometimes introduced on clothing or equipment. Outbreaks in a controlled environment can spread rapidly. Integrated pest management using biological controls, sticky traps, and strict sanitation protocols is standard practice. The absence of pesticide use is a major marketing point and aligns with consumer preferences for clean, safe food. Water use in vertical farms is minimal compared to conventional agriculture. Closed-loop hydroponic systems recirculate water, with plants taking up only what they transpire. Evaporation is limited in the controlled environment. Some farms claim to use 95% less water than field farming. In water-scarce regions, this efficiency is transformative. However, critics note that water scarcity often correlates with energy scarcity, and the electricity demands of vertical farms may offset water savings. Life cycle assessments, which consider all inputs and outputs, provide a more complete picture but yield varied results depending on local conditions and assumptions. Vertical farms also tout environmental benefits. Producing food in cities reduces transportation distances, cutting carbon emissions from trucking and refrigeration. Freshness reduces food waste, as products have longer shelf life and less spoilage. Land use is minimal, freeing agricultural land for other purposes or allowing it to revert to natural habitat. No fertilizer runoff pollutes waterways. However, the environmental calculus is not straightforward. If the electricity powering a vertical farm comes from coal or natural gas, the carbon footprint may be higher than conventionally grown food, even accounting for transportation. Renewable energy, increasingly available and affordable, is essential for vertical farms to realize their environmental promise. The geographic focus of commercial vertical farms is telling. They cluster in wealthy cities with high food prices, strong demand for premium products, and access to capital. They also appear in places with environmental constraints, such as Singapore, which imports most of its food and faces land and water limitations, or the Middle East, where arable land is scarce and climates are harsh. Japan, with its aging farming population and cultural emphasis on food security, has embraced vertical farming, with government support and corporate investment. In contrast, vertical farms are rare in regions with abundant farmland, cheap labor, and favorable growing climates, where conventional agriculture remains economically competitive. Scalability is a frequent topic of debate. Vertical farming advocates argue that the technology will improve, costs will fall, and production will scale, eventually making vertical farms competitive with or superior to conventional agriculture for a wider range of crops. Skeptics counter that vertical farming will always be limited to high-value leafy greens and herbs, that the energy demands and capital requirements are too great for staple crops like grains, beans, or root vegetables. Both perspectives have merit. Technological progress is real. Lead efficiency has improved dramatically, and automation has advanced. Yet the physics of photosynthesis and the economics of energy constrain what is possible. Sunlight is free. Replacing it with artificial light at scale is expensive. Vertical farms also face challenges related to flavor and variety. Growing conditions optimized for yield and consistency do not always produce the most flavorful vegetables. Some chefs and consumers find vertical farm greens bland compared to those grown in soil outdoors. Breeding and selecting varieties suited to vertical farming environments and refining growing protocols to enhance flavor are ongoing efforts. The range of crops that can be grown economically in vertical farms is limited. Tall plants, deep-rooted crops, and those requiring extensive space are impractical. This narrows the contribution vertical farms can make to overall food supply. Despite limitations, commercial vertical farms have established themselves as a part of the urban food landscape. They provide jobs, produce fresh food, and push the boundaries of what is possible in agriculture. For investors and entrepreneurs, they represent innovation and opportunity. For cities seeking food security and sustainability, they offer a tool, not a panacea, but a meaningful piece of a larger puzzle. The high-rise harvest, whether in a warehouse in New Jersey or a basement in Tokyo, is a testament to human ingenuity and the drive to adapt farming to the modern world. We turn now to the policy levers that shape urban farming, the incentives, regulations, and public programs that encourage or constrain its growth. Part 11. Policy levers, incentives, zoning, and public land. Urban farming does not happen in a vacuum. Every garden, every rooftop farm, every vertical operation exists within a web of policies, regulations, and incentives that shape what is possible. Zoning codes determine where food can be grown and what activities are permitted. Building codes dictate structural requirements for rooftop gardens and greenhouses. Health regulations govern food sales and animal husbandry. Tax policies influence the economics of urban agriculture. Public programs provide land, funding, and technical assistance. Understanding these policy levers is essential to understanding why urban farming flourishes in some places and struggles in others. Policy can open doors or close them, encourage innovation or impose barriers, level playing fields or entrench inequities. Zoning is perhaps the most fundamental policy tool affecting urban farming. Zoning codes divide cities into districts: residential, commercial, industrial, agricultural, and specify what uses are allowed in each. Historically, agriculture was zoned out of cities, considered incompatible with urban life. As interest in urban farming has grown, many cities have revised zoning codes to accommodate it. This can take various forms. Some cities create urban agriculture zoning overlays, allowing farming as a permitted use in multiple zoning districts. Others amend existing codes to explicitly include community gardens, market gardens, rooftop farms, or vertical farms as allowable activities. Definitions matter. Is a community garden a park, a farm, or something else? Is selling produce from a backyard garden a home occupation or commercial agriculture? Clear definitions help prevent confusion and legal challenges. Zoning amendments often address specific concerns. Setback requirements determine how close structures like greenhouses or coops can be to property lines. Height restrictions affect hoop houses and vertical structures. Parking and access requirements apply to farms that receive deliveries or host customers. Water and waste management regulations ensure that irrigation and runoff do not create problems. Animal-related zoning specifies what species and how many can be kept, where they can be housed, and what standards apply. Progressive zoning policies balance the desire to support urban farming with the need to protect public health, safety, and neighborhood character. Some cities have gone further, creating urban agriculture zones or food production overlays in specific areas. These zones prioritize food production, offering streamlined permitting, reduced fees, or exemptions from certain regulations. Detroit, with its abundance of vacant land, has been innovative in this regard. The city simplified processes for acquiring publicly owned lots for urban farming and established a framework for recognizing and supporting different scales of operation, from small community gardens to larger market farms. Cleveland has similarly embraced urban agriculture as a land use strategy, integrating it into neighborhood redevelopment plans. Public land allocation is another powerful lever. Cities own substantial amounts of land, including parks, vacant lots, rights-of-way, and property tax foreclosed parcels. Making this land available for urban farming can catalyze growth. Cities use various mechanisms. Some lease land to community groups or farmers at low or no cost. Others sell land outright, sometimes with deed restrictions ensuring it remains in agricultural use. Land banking, where a public or quasi-public entity acquires and holds land for future community benefit, can facilitate urban farming by assembling parcels and matching them with growers. Seattle's Pea Patch program, one of the oldest and largest community garden programs in the United States, operates on city-owned and private land, with long-term agreements providing security for gardeners. Funding and financial incentives support urban farming in multiple ways. Grants help cover startup costs for gardens, farms, and equipment. Cities, states, and federal agencies offer grants, as do private foundations and non-profits. The United States Department of Agriculture has programs supporting urban agriculture, including grants for community gardens, infrastructure, and education. State and local governments sometimes create dedicated funding streams, drawing from general revenues, stormwater fees, or environmental funds. Tax incentives can reduce costs. Property tax abatements for land used for urban farming lower the financial burden on landowners. Tax credits for green roof installation or rainwater harvesting systems encourage investment in urban agriculture infrastructure. Low-interest loans and revolving loan funds provide capital for larger projects. Urban farms seeking to expand, purchase equipment, or build facilities may struggle to access conventional financing, as agriculture is often considered high risk by lenders. Public or non-profit loan programs tailored to urban farming fill this gap, offering favorable terms and understanding the unique aspects of the sector. Technical assistance programs provide training, mentorship, and expertise. Cities and non-profits offer workshops on topics like soil testing, composting, pest management, food safety, and business planning. Extension services, traditionally focused on rural agriculture, have expanded to serve urban farmers, recognizing the distinct challenges and opportunities they face. Streamlined permitting and regulatory support reduce bureaucratic hurdles. Navigating city regulations can be daunting, especially for small-scale or volunteer-run operations. Some cities have created one-stop shops or dedicated staff to guide urban farmers through permitting processes. Simplified applications, reduced fees, and expedited reviews signal that urban farming is welcome and valued. Conversely, complex or opaque permitting discourages participation, particularly among communities already facing barriers. Water access and affordability are critical, especially in arid regions or cities with high water costs. Some cities provide discounted or free water for community gardens and non-profit urban farms. Installing water meters and infrastructure can be expensive, and public support helps. Rainwater harvesting, encouraged through policy and incentives, reduces reliance on municipal water. Greywater systems, which reuse water from sinks and showers for irrigation, are regulated by health and building codes. Progressive policies that allow and support greywater use expand water resources for urban farming. Food safety regulations ensure that food sold from urban farms is safe to eat. Small-scale growers often face the same regulations as large commercial operations, which can be burdensome and costly. Some jurisdictions have developed tiered regulatory approaches, scaling requirements to the size and risk level of the operation. Cottage food laws allow home-based production of certain low-risk foods like baked goods, jams, and pickles, with simplified licensing and labeling. Extending similar frameworks to urban farms, particularly those selling directly to consumers at farmers' markets or through community-supported agriculture, balances safety with accessibility. Land tenure security is a persistent challenge. Many urban farms operate on land they do not own, facing uncertainty about how long they can remain. Short-term leases, typically 1 to 3 years, make it difficult to invest in soil improvement, perennial plantings, or infrastructure. Longer leases, 5 years or more, provide stability and encourage investment. Land trusts, non-profit organizations that acquire and hold land for community benefit, offer a model for securing urban farmland. Community land trusts can purchase land and lease it to farmers at affordable rates, ensuring it remains accessible and protected from speculation and development pressure. Policy can also address equity and access. Urban farming initiatives risk gentrification and displacement if not carefully managed. New gardens and farms can signal neighborhood improvement, attracting investment and raising property values, which in turn increases rents and pushes out long-time residents. Policies that prioritize land access for residents of underserved communities, provide financial support to low-income growers, and involve community members in decision-making help ensure that urban farming benefits those who need it most rather than contributing to displacement. Liability and insurance concerns sometimes hinder urban farming. Landowners worry about being sued if someone is injured on a garden or farm. Some states have passed urban agriculture liability protection laws, limiting landowner liability when land is provided for farming at low or no cost. Requiring farmers to carry insurance and indemnify landowners provides additional protection. Clarifying these issues through policy reduces fear and encourages land sharing. Public-private partnerships bring together government, businesses, non-profits, and community groups to support urban farming. Partnerships can leverage resources, expertise, and networks that no single entity possesses. A city might provide land, a non-profit offers training and management, a business funds infrastructure, and community members contribute labor. These collaborations can be powerful, though they require clear agreements, mutual respect, and shared goals to succeed. International examples illustrate the range of policy approaches. In Havana, Cuba, urban agriculture is integrated into city planning, with government support for research, extension, and market access. The city has designated agricultural land within urban boundaries and provides inputs and technical assistance. In Rosario, Argentina, municipal government partnered with universities and civil society to develop an urban agriculture program that addresses food security and provides training and employment. The city allocates public land, offers microcredit, and supports marketing through municipal markets. In Kampala, Uganda, urban farming is widespread but largely informal. Recent policy efforts aim to recognize and support these activities, addressing land tenure, water access, and market linkages. Policies evolve as urban farming matures. Early policies often focus on permitting and removing barriers. As the sector grows, policies address more complex issues like commercial viability, environmental impacts, and integration with broader food system goals. Some cities develop comprehensive urban agriculture plans, setting goals, identifying priority areas, and coordinating across departments. These plans recognize urban farming not as a niche activity but as a component of sustainable, resilient, equitable cities. Policy alone does not create urban farming, but it shapes the landscape in which it grows. Thoughtful, inclusive, and supportive policies lower barriers, provide resources, and signal that urban farming is valued. They empower individuals and communities to take action, transforming neglected spaces into productive landscapes and strengthening the connections between people, food, and place. We move now to the technologies that enable and enhance urban farming, from sensors and data to innovations in lighting and automation. Part 12: Technology, Sensors, and the Quiet Intelligence of Farms. There is a quietness to a well-managed urban farm, a sense of systems humming along, plants thriving, water flowing, light cycling on and off. Beneath that calm surface, technology increasingly plays a role, gathering data, adjusting conditions, and optimizing growth. Sensors measure soil moisture, temperature, humidity, light levels, and nutrient concentrations. Software processes the data, identifying patterns and triggering responses. Automated systems water plants, adjust lighting, and regulate climate. This quiet intelligence transforms farming from an art based on intuition and experience into a practice informed by real-time information and precise control. It is not that intuition and experience disappear, but they are augmented, enhanced by tools that see and respond faster and more consistently than human observation alone. Soil moisture sensors are among the most common technologies in urban farming. Knowing when to water is fundamental. Too much water drowns roots, encourages disease, and wastes resources. Too little stresses plants and reduces yields. Traditional methods rely on touch, visual inspection, or schedules based on averages. Soil moisture sensors provide objective data. Probes inserted into the soil measure water content, often using electrical resistance or capacitance. The sensor sends data to a controller, which can trigger irrigation when moisture falls below a threshold. This precision conserves water and improves plant health. In container and rooftop gardens, where drying happens quickly and unevenly, sensors and automated irrigation are particularly valuable. Weather stations and microclimatic sensors expand environmental monitoring. Urban environments create microclimates, localized areas with distinct conditions. A rooftop might be windier and hotter than a sheltered courtyard. An alley garden may be shaded and cool. Sensors placed throughout a site measure temperature, humidity, wind speed, and solar radiation, revealing these variations. Growers use this information to select appropriate crops for each location and to adjust management practices. If a rooftop consistently dries out faster, irrigation frequency increases. If a corner stays damp, drainage is improved or moisture-tolerant plants are chosen. In controlled environment agriculture, such as vertical farms and greenhouses, sensors are ubiquitous. Temperature and humidity sensors feed into climate control systems, activating heaters, coolers, humidifiers, or dehumidifiers to maintain set points. Carbon dioxide sensors monitor CO2 levels, which can be enriched to boost photosynthesis. Light sensors measure photosynthetically active radiation, ensuring plants receive adequate intensity and spectrum. Nutrient solution sensors track electrical conductivity and pH, alerting growers to imbalances. Some systems even monitor dissolved oxygen levels in hydroponic solutions, critical for healthy root function. Data from sensors flows into software platforms that aggregate, visualize, and analyze it. Dashboards display current conditions and historical trends. Alerts notify growers of problems, such as a sudden temperature spike or a failed pump. Advanced platforms use algorithms and machine learning to predict outcomes and recommend actions. If temperature and humidity patterns suggest disease risk is rising, the system might advise increasing ventilation or reducing irrigation. Yield prediction models estimate harvest timing and quantity based on growth rates and environmental data. These tools do not replace human judgment but inform it, helping growers make better decisions faster. Automation extends beyond climate control and irrigation. Robotic seeders plant seeds with precision, spacing them evenly and at optimal depths. Transplanting robots move seedlings from propagation trays to grow beds, a labor-intensive task in large operations. Harvesting robots, still in development and limited in capability, can pick certain crops like lettuce or strawberries, using computer vision to identify ripe produce and robotic arms to cut or grasp it. Automation reduces labor costs, a major expense in urban farming, and increases consistency. However, robots are expensive, require maintenance, and currently work best with uniform crops in controlled settings. Their role in diverse, small-scale urban farms remains limited. Lighting technology, especially LEDs, has revolutionized indoor farming. Early indoor growers used high-pressure sodium or metal halide lamps, which consumed significant electricity and generated heat. LEDs are far more efficient, converting a higher percentage of energy into usable light. They also generate less heat, reducing cooling costs and allowing lights to be placed closer to plants without burning them. The spectral tunability of LEDs is a game changer. Plants absorb light primarily in the blue and red wavelengths. LEDs can be engineered to emit precisely those wavelengths, maximizing efficiency. Research continues to refine light recipes, combinations of wavelengths, intensities, and photo periods tailored to specific crops and growth stages. Purple or pinkish light, common in vertical farms, results from the predominance of red and blue LEDs. Some systems use dynamic lighting, adjusting spectrum and intensity over time. Morning light might have more blue to stimulate vegetative growth. Afternoon light might shift toward red to encourage flowering. This mimics natural sunlight's changing quality throughout the day, though the science of weather and how plants benefit is still being explored. Pulse lighting, rapidly switching LEDs on and off, is another area of research, potentially saving energy while maintaining photosynthesis. Energy management is critical in indoor urban farms. Electricity costs drive profitability and environmental impact. Farms increasingly install solar panels, wind turbines, or connect to renewable energy grids. Battery storage systems store excess energy for use during peak demand or grid outages. Energy monitoring systems track consumption in real time, identifying inefficiencies and opportunities for savings. Timers and smart controllers schedule energy-intensive operations, like running lights or HVAC systems, during off-peak hours when electricity is cheaper. Water management technology conserves this vital resource. Drip irrigation delivers water directly to plant roots with minimal waste. Timers and controllers automate watering schedules. In recirculating hydroponic systems, filters and pumps maintain water quality. UV sterilizers or ozone generators disinfect water, preventing disease spread. Rainwater harvesting systems capture precipitation, storing it in tanks for irrigation. Sensors monitor tank levels, and pumps deliver water as needed. Grey water treatment systems filter and disinfect water from sinks and showers, making it suitable for irrigation. These technologies close water loops, reducing dependence on municipal supplies. Nutrient delivery in hydroponic and aquaponic systems is managed with precision. Dosing pumps inject concentrated fertilizer solutions into irrigation water, achieving target nutrient levels. Controllers adjust dosing based on sensor feedback. Some systems use injectors for individual nutrients, allowing fine-tuned customization. Nutrient film technique systems maintain precise flow rates. Ebb and flow systems time flood and drain cycles. The goal is consistency, ensuring plants always have access to optimal nutrition. Communication and connectivity tie technologies together. Internet of Things devices link sensors, controllers, and actuators, enabling remote monitoring and control. A grower can check conditions and adjust settings from a smartphone, whether at home or across the city. Cloud-based platforms store data, perform analytics, and provide access from anywhere. This connectivity is especially valuable for operations managing multiple sites or for growers balancing farming with other responsibilities. Challenges accompany technological adoption. Cost is a barrier, especially for small-scale or low-income growers. Sensors, controllers, and automation systems require upfront investment. Grants and cost-sharing programs help, but many urban farmers cannot afford advanced technology. Complexity is another issue. Installing, configuring, and maintaining technology requires knowledge and skills. Not every grower is comfortable with electronics, software, and troubleshooting. Training and technical support are essential but not always accessible. Reliability matters. A sensor failure or software glitch can have serious consequences, from wasted water to crop loss. Backup systems, redundancy, and regular maintenance reduce risk but add cost and complexity. Dependence on technology also raises questions about resilience. If power fails or a system malfunctions, can the farm continue? Low-tech fallbacks and manual overrides provide security. Data privacy and ownership are emerging concerns. As farms generate vast amounts of data, who owns it, who can access it, and how it is used become important questions. In agriculture, data can reveal farm operations, yields, and strategies. Companies providing technology services may collect data, potentially using it for their own purposes or sharing it with third parties. Clear agreements and protections ensure farmers retain control over their data. Despite challenges, technology empowers urban farmers. It enables production in spaces and climates that would otherwise be difficult or impossible. It conserves resources, improves yields, and reduces labor. It democratizes knowledge, making best practices and expert insights available to anyone with an internet connection. Open-source hardware and software projects share designs and code, lowering costs and fostering innovation. Online communities troubleshoot problems, exchange ideas, and build collective expertise. Technology also shapes the public perception of urban farming. High-tech vertical farms with glowing LEDs and robotic systems capture imagination and media attention. They symbolize progress and innovation, attracting investment and interest. At the same time, they can overshadow lower-tech, community-based gardens that are equally important. The narrative that technology will solve food system problems risks undervaluing social, cultural, and ecological dimensions of farming. Balance is needed, recognizing that technology is a tool, valuable when appropriate, but not inherently superior to other approaches. As we move forward, we turn to real-world examples, examining cities that have embraced urban farming and the lessons their experiences offer. Part 13. Case Studies. Cities that grew into gardens. Every city that embraces urban farming does so in its own way, shaped by geography, history, economy, and culture. Some cities turn to farming out of necessity, responding to crisis or scarcity. Others pursue it as part of a vision for sustainability and resilience. Examining specific cities reveals patterns and possibilities, showing what works, what struggles, and what transforms when food production takes root in urban soil. These case studies are not exhaustive but illustrative, snapshots of places where urban farming has become woven into the fabric of city life. Detroit offers one of the most compelling urban farming stories. Once a thriving industrial center, the city experienced decades of decline as manufacturing jobs disappeared and population fell. By the early 21st century, Detroit had thousands of vacant lots, abandoned buildings, and neighborhoods with few services. Amid this decline, residents began transforming empty land into gardens and farms. What started as individual efforts grew into a movement. Community gardens, market gardens, and small farms spread across the city. Organizations like the Detroit Black Community Food Security Network, Keep Growing Detroit, and the Greening of Detroit provided seeds, tools, training, and advocacy. Detroit's urban farming movement is notable for its diversity. It includes subsistence gardens where families grow food for themselves, community gardens where neighbors share plots and labor, and commercial farms selling to restaurants and markets. The farms vary in size from small lots to multi-acre operations. Some focus on traditional vegetables, others on heritage crops, medicinal herbs, or specialty greens. Livestock, including chickens, bees, and even goats, appear in some locations. The city government, initially uncertain about how to respond, eventually embraced urban farming. It streamlined processes for acquiring publicly owned land, offered reduced water rates for gardens and farms, and incorporated urban agriculture into planning documents. Zoning was amended to clearly allow farming in multiple districts. Detroit demonstrates both the potential and limitations of urban farming. It has improved food access in neighborhoods lacking grocery stores, created green space in areas of blight, provided income and employment, and fostered community cohesion. However, it has not solved poverty or reversed depopulation. Questions about land tenure, sustainability of volunteer labor, market access, and gentrification persist. Some residents resent the narrative that Detroit is a blank canvas for experimentation, pointing out that people have lived and farmed there throughout the decline. Others celebrate the creativity and resilience the farms represent. The story is ongoing, complex, and deeply human. Singapore presents a different model, high-tech and policy-driven. The city-state is wealthy, densely populated, and imports more than 90% of its food. Recognizing this dependency as a vulnerability, the government set a goal, known as the 30 by 30 initiative, to produce 30% of the nation's nutritional needs locally by the year 2030. To achieve this, Singapore has invested heavily in vertical farming, rooftop agriculture, and aquaculture. The government provides grants, research support, and land through tenders. Companies and research institutions collaborate to develop technologies suited to Singapore's tropical climate and limited space. Vertical farms have proliferated, growing leafy greens, herbs, and tomatoes in warehouses and purpose-built facilities. Sky Greens, an early pioneer, developed a rotating vertical tower system driven by hydraulic power. Sustainable Agriculture and other companies use LED lighting and climate control to produce crops year-round. Rooftop farms atop public housing blocks, commercial buildings, and car parks contribute as well. The Edible Garden City organization runs rooftop farms and advocates for community involvement in food production. Aquaculture operations raise fish in land-based systems, reducing reliance on wild-caught or imported seafood. Singapore's approach is pragmatic and technocratic. It leverages government policy, private investment, and scientific expertise. The emphasis is on productivity, efficiency, and food security rather than community building or social equity, though educational and community programs exist. The model works in Singapore's specific context, a small, wealthy nation with strong governance and significant resources to invest. It may not translate directly to other places, but it demonstrates what is possible when government commits to urban agriculture as a strategic priority. Havana, Cuba, offers yet another story, one born of crisis and necessity. In the early 1990s, the collapse of the Soviet Union cut off Cuba's primary source of fuel, fertilizer, and food imports. The economy plummeted. Food became scarce. In response, the Cuban government encouraged urban agriculture, and citizens took up the call. Havana, the capital, saw a dramatic transformation. Vacant lots, yards, and public spaces were converted into gardens. Organopanicos, raised bed gardens using organic methods and intensive planting, became the backbone of urban food production. The government provided land, training, extension services, and guaranteed purchase of produce. By the early 2000s, Havana had thousands of urban farms and gardens producing significant quantities of vegetables and herbs. Farmers' markets selling locally grown produce opened across the city. The system was largely organic by necessity, as synthetic inputs were unavailable or unaffordable. Composting, natural pest control, and crop rotation became standard practices. Urban agriculture employed tens of thousands of people and provided fresh food to a population facing shortages. Havana's experience is often cited as proof that cities can feed themselves, but the context matters. The system emerged from crisis, supported by government policy and driven by need. As Cuba's economy has shifted, urban agriculture has faced challenges. Economic reforms, changing policies, and increased imports have altered the landscape. Some farms have closed or reduced production. Younger generations may not be as committed to farming. Yet urban agriculture remains a visible and valued part of Havana's food system, a testament to resilience and adaptability. Rosario, Argentina, provides an example of urban agriculture integrated into social policy. In the late 1990s, Argentina experienced severe economic crisis. Unemployment and poverty soared. In Rosario, The municipal government partnered with universities and civil society to launch the Urban Agriculture Program. The program addressed food security, created employment, and promoted social inclusion. The city allocated public land for gardens, offered microcredit and training, and established markets where urban farmers could sell produce. Community gardens, school gardens, and commercial plots spread across the city. The program emphasized participation and empowerment. Beneficiaries, many of them unemployed or marginalized, received not just land and resources but also training in agronomy, business skills, and cooperative organization. Women, who make up a significant portion of participants, found opportunities for income and leadership. The program fostered social networks and community cohesion. Over time, it became institutionalized, surviving changes in government and economic conditions. Rosario's model has been studied and replicated in other cities across Latin America, demonstrating how urban agriculture can be a tool for social policy and poverty alleviation. Toronto, Canada, has a long history of community gardens, dating back over a century. The city supports urban agriculture through the Toronto Food Policy Council, established in the 1990s, which advises government on food issues. Toronto's Green Roof Bylaw, enacted in 2009, requires green roofs on new buildings, some of which include food production. The city leases land to community gardens and provides grants for garden infrastructure. Food banks, schools, and community organizations run gardens and farms. The focus is on community engagement, food literacy, and sustainability. Toronto exemplifies how urban agriculture can be integrated into a broader food policy framework, linking production with access, nutrition, and environmental goals. Paris, France, has embraced urban agriculture as part of its climate and sustainability agenda. The city set a goal to green roofs and walls on a significant portion of buildings, with a portion dedicated to food production. Participatory budgeting allows residents to propose and fund urban agriculture projects. Community gardens, rooftop farms, and experimental projects like mushroom cultivation in abandoned railway tunnels have emerged. Paris combines aesthetic ambitions, seeing urban agriculture as enhancing the city's beauty, with practical goals around local food production, biodiversity, and climate resilience. The approach is distinctly Parisian, blending innovation with a cultural appreciation for food and green space. Accra, Ghana, represents informal urban agriculture in a rapidly growing African city. Many residents, particularly women, grow vegetables in backyards, along roadsides, and in open spaces. These gardens supplement diets and incomes. However, informal farming faces challenges including insecure land tenure, lack of water access, contamination from urban pollution, and periodic evictions when land is claimed for development. Recent initiatives by city authorities and NGOs aim to formalize and support urban agriculture, providing training, access to inputs, and helping farmers organize. The experience in Accra highlights the need for policies that recognize and support existing practices rather than imposing external models. These case studies reveal common themes. Urban farming thrives when policy supports it, when land is accessible, and when communities are engaged. It addresses diverse goals, from food security to environmental sustainability to social cohesion. Context matters immensely. What works in Detroit may not suit Singapore. The strategies appropriate for Havana differ from those in Paris. Yet all these cities demonstrate that urban farming is possible, adaptable, and valuable. Each has learned lessons, made mistakes, and found paths forward. Their experiences inform and inspire other cities exploring urban agriculture. As we continue, we turn to the obstacles and risks that urban farming faces and the strategies for overcoming them. Part 14: Barriers, Risks, and Resilient Responses. Urban farming, for all its promise, is not without obstacles. Barriers exist at multiple levels, from the individual grower struggling with soil contamination to the structural challenges of market access and financial viability. Risks range from crop failure and pest outbreaks to the displacement of gardens by development. Understanding these challenges is essential, not to discourage but to approach urban farming with clear eyes and prepare resilient responses. Every barrier overcome strengthens the movement, and every risk managed builds capacity for the future. Land access remains one of the most persistent barriers. In cities, land is expensive and contested. Privately owned land may be unavailable or cost prohibitive. Publicly owned land is often tied up in bureaucracy or designated for other uses. Even when land is accessible, tenure is frequently insecure. Short-term leases or informal arrangements leave farmers vulnerable to eviction or displacement. This insecurity discourages long-term investment in soil improvement, infrastructure, or perennial crops. Solutions include longer lease terms, land trusts that hold property for community benefit, and policies that prioritize urban agriculture in land use planning. Advocacy and organizing are also critical, as communities push for land access and secure tenure. Soil contamination is a serious concern in many urban areas. Decades or centuries of industrial activity, vehicle emissions, and improper waste disposal leave legacies of lead, arsenic, petroleum products, and other pollutants. Lead, in particular, is widespread in older cities where leaded gasoline and paint were common. Lead does not degrade and can be absorbed by plants or ingested directly by children playing in gardens. Soil testing is essential before planting. If contamination is found, options include raised beds with clean soil, container gardening, or phytoremediation. Some cities offer free soil testing for gardens and farms, recognizing the public health importance. Capping contaminated soil with landscape fabric and a thick layer of clean soil or growing medium provides a barrier. Educating gardeners about contamination risks and mitigation strategies is crucial. Water access varies greatly across cities. In some places, municipal water is affordable and readily available. In others, water is expensive, or infrastructure is lacking in low-income neighborhoods. Gardens and farms without water access must rely on rainwater harvesting, which may be insufficient in dry periods. Some cities provide reduced water rates or free water to community gardens and non-profit farms, recognizing the public benefits. Installing water infrastructure, such as lines and spigots, can be costly. Grants and public investment help, but gaps remain. Water rights and regulations also matter. In some regions, capturing rainwater is restricted or requires permits. Greywater use, reusing water from sinks and showers for irrigation, is heavily regulated for health reasons. Progressive policies that safely expand water access support urban farming. Financial viability is a challenge, especially for commercial urban farms. Startup costs can be high, particularly for infrastructure-intensive operations like greenhouses or hydroponic systems. Operating costs include labor, inputs, utilities, and maintenance. Revenue depends on market prices, which fluctuate, and competition from conventional agriculture. Urban farms cannot always compete on price, with large-scale rural farms benefiting from economies of scale and lower land costs. Urban farms must find market niches, emphasizing freshness, quality, unique varieties, organic or pesticide-free growing, or local provenance. Building relationships with chefs, participating in farmers' markets, and offering subscription boxes or farm shares help. Some urban farms diversify revenue through agritourism, workshops, events, or value-added products like jams or pickles. Even so, many urban farms operate on tight margins or rely on grants and donations to stay afloat. Labor is another challenge. Farming is physically demanding and often requires long hours, particularly during planting and harvest seasons. Urban farms may struggle to find workers willing to do agricultural labor at wages the farm can afford. Volunteer labor sustains many community gardens but is unpredictable and can lead to burnout among coordinators. Training programs that prepare people for urban farming careers help build a skilled workforce. Fair wages, safe working conditions, and opportunities for advancement make urban farming jobs more attractive. Some farms employ youth or individuals facing employment barriers, providing training and pathways to further opportunities. Automation, as discussed earlier, can reduce labor needs but requires capital investment. Pest and disease management presents ongoing challenges. Urban environments are not pest-free. Aphids, caterpillars, slugs, rodents, and birds all threaten crops. Disease, especially fungal and bacterial infections, can spread quickly in dense plantings or humid conditions. Organic and integrated pest management approaches, using biological controls, physical barriers, and careful monitoring, are preferred in urban settings where pesticide use may be restricted or undesirable due to proximity to homes, schools, and sensitive populations. Education and experience are crucial. New growers may struggle to identify and address problems before they escalate. Extension services, workshops, and peer networks provide support. Climate variability and extreme weather pose risks. Urban heat islands intensify heat waves, stressing plants and increasing water needs. Droughts reduce water availability. Heavy rains can flood gardens and wash away soil. Storms damage structures and crops. While urban farming can contribute to climate adaptation and mitigation, it is also vulnerable to climate impacts. Strategies include selecting heat and drought-tolerant crops, installing shade structures, improving drainage, and diversifying plantings to spread risk. Controlled environment agriculture, such as greenhouses and vertical farms, offers some protection from weather but at higher cost and energy use. Gentrification and displacement are complex social risks. Urban farms and gardens can improve neighborhoods, creating green space and community assets. However, These improvements can increase property values and attract new investment, raising rents and property taxes. Long-time residents, often the very people who created the gardens, may be priced out. This is a painful irony, where success contributes to displacement. Addressing this requires policies that protect affordable housing, provide rent stabilization, and ensure that community members have ownership or secure tenure in the farms and gardens they create. Community land trusts and cooperative ownership models help anchor benefits within communities. Regulatory barriers can stifle urban farming. Complex permitting processes, unclear regulations, and inconsistent enforcement create frustration and uncertainty. Regulations designed for rural or large-scale agriculture may not fit urban contexts. For example, regulations requiring large setbacks or prohibiting sales from residential properties limit what small urban farms can do. Advocacy for regulatory reform, tailored to urban agriculture, is ongoing in many cities. Simplified permitting, clear guidelines, and supportive enforcement make a difference. Market saturation and competition are emerging concerns in some cities. As urban farming grows, more growers compete for the same customers. Farmers' markets become crowded. Restaurants have multiple local suppliers. Prices may fall, squeezing margins. Differentiation, quality, and relationships become even more important. Collaboration, such as cooperative marketing or shared distribution, can reduce competition and increase efficiency. However, tensions can arise, particularly between established and new growers or between commercial and community-focused operations. Food safety regulations, while essential, can be burdensome for small-scale growers. Testing, record-keeping, and facility requirements add costs and complexity. Tiered regulatory frameworks that scale requirements to operation size and risk help balance safety with accessibility. Education about food safety practices, such as proper washing, handling, and storage, benefits growers and protects consumers. Theft and vandalism, though not universal, affect some urban farms and gardens. Produce is stolen, fences are damaged, or gardens are trashed. This can be demoralizing and costly. Community engagement and building relationships with neighbors reduce risks. Visible, active gardens that are clearly cared for and integrated into the neighborhood tend to experience less vandalism. Fencing, locks, and signage help but are not foolproof. Some gardens respond by sharing produce with neighbors, inviting them to harvest, which builds goodwill and reduces theft. Access to knowledge and training is a barrier for some. Farming requires skills that many urban residents lack. While gardening information is widely available online, not everyone has internet access or the ability to sift through information to find what is relevant and reliable. Hands-on training, mentorship, and local networks are invaluable. Extension services, community colleges, non-profits, and experienced farmers provide this support, though availability varies. Despite these barriers and risks, urban farming persists and grows, testament to its resilience and the determination of those who practice it. Every challenge met strengthens the movement, building knowledge, networks, and confidence. Resilient responses involve not just technical solutions but also organizing, advocacy, solidarity, and creativity. Urban farming is not easy, But for many, it is worth the effort. It offers tangible benefits, connection to food and community, and a way to shape the world in small but meaningful ways. We turn now to the future, exploring where urban farming might go and the possibilities that lie ahead. Part 15. The future of food close to home. The future is not a single path but a branching of possibilities, shaped by choices made in the present. Urban farming stands at a threshold, poised to expand and deepen or to remain a niche practice on the margins of the food system. Which direction it takes depends on technology, policy, investment, culture, and the commitments of individuals and communities. The vision of cities as places where food grows abundantly, where rooftops bloom and warehouses hum with life, is within reach. But so too are futures where urban farming remains small-scale, fragmented, or fails to fulfill its potential. Understanding the forces at play helps us navigate toward the more hopeful possibilities. Technology will continue to evolve, opening new avenues for urban farming. Lead efficiency will improve further, reducing energy costs for indoor farms. Advances in renewable energy, particularly solar and battery storage, will make vertical farms more environmentally sustainable. Automation and robotics will become more sophisticated and affordable, handling tasks from seeding to harvesting with greater precision. Artificial intelligence and machine learning will optimize growing conditions, predict problems before they occur, and maximize yields while minimizing inputs. Sensors will become cheaper and more pervasive, giving even small-scale growers access to data-driven insights. Biotechnology may play a role as well, with crop varieties bred or engineered specifically for urban environments, compact plants that grow quickly under artificial light or tolerate the stresses of container growing. Yet technology alone will not determine the future. Social and political choices matter just as much, if not more. Will cities prioritize urban farming in land use planning, reserving space and providing support, or will development pressures squeeze it out? Will policies ensure that the benefits of urban farming reach marginalized communities, or will it become a luxury for the wealthy? Will food sovereignty and justice guide decisions, or will profit and efficiency dominate? These are questions that communities, governments, and movements must answer. The answers will shape not just urban farming but the character of cities themselves. Climate change will influence urban farming in profound ways. As temperatures rise, growing seasons lengthen in some regions while heat stress intensifies in others. Water scarcity will worsen in many areas, making efficient irrigation and water recycling essential. Extreme weather events, from floods to hurricanes to droughts, will test the resilience of urban farms. At the same time, urban farming can contribute to climate adaptation and mitigation. Green roofs and urban forests cool cities. Local food production reduces transportation emissions. Composting and organic practices sequester carbon in soil. Urban farms can become sites of climate action, demonstrating regenerative practices and building resilience at the neighborhood level. Economic pressures will shape trajectories as well. If the cost of land, labor, and energy continues to rise, urban farming may struggle to compete economically with conventional agriculture. Subsidies, incentives, and public investment can level the playing field, recognizing the broader benefits urban farming provides beyond market value. Alternatively, If conventional agriculture faces mounting challenges from climate change, soil degradation, water scarcity, and labor shortages, the comparative advantage of urban farming may grow. The economics are dynamic, influenced by countless factors, and predictions are uncertain. What is clear is that financial sustainability will remain a central concern for commercial urban farms and a consideration for community and non-profit operations. Cultural shifts will also play a role. A growing awareness of food system vulnerabilities, driven by disruptions like the COVID-19 pandemic, has spurred interest in local food and self-sufficiency. Younger generations, concerned about climate and social justice, are drawn to urban farming as a way to make a difference. These trends suggest a cultural opening, a moment when urban farming can expand its reach and influence. But culture shifts slowly, and entrenched habits around food, convenience, and consumption are powerful. Changing how people think about where food comes from and who grows it requires sustained education, storytelling, and modeling of alternatives. Integration with broader food systems is a likely direction for urban farming. Rather than operating in isolation, urban farms may become nodes in networks that include rural farms, food hubs, distributors, processors, and retailers. Hybrid models could emerge, where cities produce certain crops, particularly leafy greens, herbs, and specialty items, while relying on peri-urban and rural areas for grains, legumes, fruits, and other staples. This regional approach balances the strengths of different scales and environments, optimizing resource use and resilience. Collaboration between urban and rural farmers, sometimes strained by competition or misunderstanding, could deepen, fostering mutual support and shared learning. Education will be critical to the future of urban farming. As knowledge spreads, more people will have the skills and confidence to grow food. Schools that integrate gardening into curricula prepare students not just with agricultural knowledge but with systems thinking, environmental literacy, and practical life skills. Community colleges and vocational programs offering training in urban agriculture create career pathways and build a skilled workforce. Online platforms, apps, and social media democratize access to information, connecting growers across distances and enabling peer-to-peer learning. Extension services, evolving to meet urban needs, provide research-based guidance and support. Policy innovation will unlock potential. Cities that adopt comprehensive urban agriculture plans, coordinate across departments, and commit resources will see greater success. Zoning reforms that embrace mixed-use neighborhoods, where residential, commercial, and agricultural activities coexist, create space for farming. Land banks and trusts that secure affordable land for farming in perpetuity provide stability. Tax incentives, grants, and low-interest loans reduce financial barriers. Simplified permitting and supportive regulation lower bureaucratic hurdles. Food procurement policies that prioritize local and urban-grown produce for schools, hospitals, and government facilities create reliable markets. These policies do not guarantee success, but they create conditions where urban farming can flourish. Equity and justice must remain central. Urban farming has the potential to address food insecurity, create economic opportunities, and empower communities. But it can also become a tool of gentrification, a marketing gimmick, or a privilege of the affluent. Intentionality matters. ensuring that land, resources, training, and decision-making power are accessible to low-income communities, communities of color, immigrants, and other marginalized groups requires deliberate effort. It means listening to community voices, centering their priorities, and dismantling barriers. It means recognizing and addressing histories of dispossession, discrimination, and disinvestment. Urban farming rooted in justice transforms not just food systems but power relations. Resilience, both ecological and social, is a guiding principle for the future. Resilient urban farms use diverse practices, grow many crops, incorporate perennials and annuals, and adapt to changing conditions. They build soil health, conserve water, support biodiversity, and minimize external inputs. Socially, resilient farms are embedded in communities, supported by networks, and governed democratically. They weather shocks, from economic downturns to climate disasters, because they are flexible, resourceful, and connected. Building resilience requires thinking long-term, investing in relationships, and valuing stability over maximization. The vision of the future includes many scales and forms of urban farming coexisting. Backyard gardens and balcony pots, community gardens where neighbors gather, rooftop farms supplying restaurants, commercial vertical farms producing at scale, aquaponics operations integrating fish and plants, edible landscaping in parks and streetscapes, orchards in schoolyards, beehives on office buildings, and experimental projects testing new methods. Diversity is strength. No single model will suit every city, neighborhood, or grower. The richness of urban farming lies in its plurality, its ability to adapt to countless contexts and purposes. Looking ahead, urban farming may become so normalized, so integrated into city life, that it ceases to seem remarkable. Children growing up with gardens in their schools and neighborhoods will take them for granted, just as earlier generations took farms in the countryside for granted. The novelty will fade, replaced by familiarity. That normalization, in some ways, would be a success, a sign that urban farming has become part of the infrastructure, the culture, the fabric of urban existence. Food growing close to home, visible and accessible, could reshape relationships with food, fostering appreciation, understanding, and care. Yet urban farming will not solve all problems. It cannot replace rural agriculture or feed billions alone. It will not end poverty or reverse climate change by itself. It is one piece of a much larger puzzle, one strategy among many needed to build just, sustainable, resilient food systems. Expectations should be realistic, grounded in what urban farming can and cannot do. Its contributions are significant, but it is not a panacea. The future is being written now, in every seed planted, every policy passed, every relationship built. Urban farming grows from the ground up, through the actions of individuals and communities choosing to engage with food and land in new ways. It also grows from the top down, through decisions by governments, investors, and institutions. The interplay between these scales, the grassroots and the institutional, will shape what emerges. Tension exists, as there always is between community control and external influence, between market logic and social values. Navigating this tension requires dialogue, compromise, and vigilance. As we reach the end of this exploration, the image that remains is simple. A city where food grows in many places, tended by many hands. Rooftops green with lettuce and tomatoes. Balconies bright with herbs and flowers. Warehouses glowing with the purple light of LEDs. Community gardens alive with activity and conversation. Bees moving from bloom to bloom. Chickens scratching in backyard coops. Water flowing through systems where fish and plants sustain each other. Compost bins turning waste into fertility. Children learning where food comes from, hands in soil. The quiet hum of pumps and fans. The rustle of leaves. The smell of earth and growing things. This is not a distant dream but a present reality, unfolding unevenly, imperfectly, but unmistakably. Urban farming is here, taking root, growing, adapting, and persisting. Its future depends on the choices made in the coming years, the investments of resources and imagination, the willingness to experiment and learn. The city as a garden is not inevitable, but it is possible. And that possibility, that quiet potential, is worth nurturing. Rest well, knowing that in cities around the world, seeds are germinating, plants are reaching toward light, and people are tending the future of food close to home.